welcome to Miami, welcome to Biscayne Bay, welcome to the USA, and welcome to the 90th Bacardi Cup. Here it is, the cup itself, from Cuba, Havana, with the famous bat logo of Bacardi. In the sport of sailing, this really is on the bucket list of many, many sailors, and we've got some famous names like recently Robert Staniek, Fritjof Kleen, Lars Grael from Brazil, two-time winner, Mark Mendelblatt, Xavier Rohart from France, going back in time a little bit, Hamish Pepper from New Zealand, Mark Reynolds, 7-time winner of the Cup, Ding Shoemaker, names like Etchells. It goes back in time to some of the great and the good. We're here to cover the 6 races, old school races, long 3-hour races, huge beats, huge runs, and it's going to be cool. We'll cover it with virtual eye and our America's Cup camera out there. But before we get into what's going on today, let's talk to some of the sailors about what this special trophy means to them.
Means joy, means glory, means the history of a traditional event, which is the Bacardi Cup, 90 years. So it's probably the major star class event except the Gold Star. So it's a great event. It's nice to be here in Miami, officially the capital of the star class.
In my opinion, it's the second most important trophy in the star class, just behind the Star Worlds, and also the second most traditional event. So it's a big pleasure and a big honor to be here, trying to take it.
I think it's just an incredible experience to get out here and get sailing with these guys who have been super inspirational in getting me to the star in the last 2 years.
Trophy means a lot to me. I've been sailing for this regatta probably almost 50 years, and it's probably, as I've said before, it's on everybody's bucket list. And it takes the very cream of the crop to win it, but I think that something that everybody worldwide, no matter what regatta we're in or whatever, this is one of the most meaningful regattas that the star class has.
It means past and future. That's very important. With big names on this cup, my name is there, and I really want to have it again on it. And it means also the future, because we combine everything here: the SSL, the star class, big guys, amateur, and we are doing everything to go forward for the future.
In Robert Staniek and me, we were the first German ever winning it, so it's a very special moment to stand next to it again, and it's great memories. And I've tried to have it in my hand in this lifetime once again.
We've just heard from Frida, who's the reigning Bacardi Cup champion crew. Augie Diaz, you are the reigning Star World Champion skipper with Bruno Prado, your crew. Do you think you can take down Frida and take home the Bacardi Cup this year?
It will be hard, and it's not just Frida. I think Xavier Rohart, Frida, there's a number of really good sailors, George Szabo. There are so many good sailors here, I couldn't name them all, but it's going to be very interesting here in the first couple of days who can stay out of trouble and have races that they can count moving forward. And then, but there'll be at least 10 to 12 players, I think, that will have a really good chance of winning. Hopefully we're one of them.
And you are a local from Miami. What do you think we can expect out there on Biscayne Bay today?
It's going to be vintage Biscayne Bay. Really nice 15-knot breeze out of the easterly direction, which generally means very good sailing here on the bay, very steady sailing, and I think it'll be fun to go up against all the guys, and we'll have a party out there.
Well, thanks so much. We'll let you get out there on your boat to have that party. And Digby, let's get to you guys in the studio.
Thank you very much, Jenny, and welcome. We are in the US Sailing Center in Miami, Biscayne Bay. With me, Kathleen Tox, 6-time Snipe national champ, former member of the US sailing team. And also we have Jeff Ewanson, another former US sailing team member with a fin. He's coached stars, you've raced stars, and you know this bay very well. Welcome. Great to have you. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us at home and at work around the world. We know there's a lot of people who watch this live. We're live now, and a lot of people who watch it on the replay on YouTube and live stream. We are under 10 minutes to the start. We think that the warning is going in about 3.5 minutes or so. So let's have a quick chat. Kathleen, top runners and riders, who's your money on?
Right now, with the weather conditions, the breezy conditions out there, I'm looking at the French for this win. They've won it in the past. It's been a few years, but I'm going to put my money on the French. And just behind them, probably Ivan Melleby sailing with Josh Revkin.
Okay, so that's two good intros there. Jeff, are you going to have a little punt here for today? Let's just go for today.
I think she's taking it too easy and picking easy ones. I'm going to say that Brian Ledbetter, sailing with his son, is going to be a favorite out there today. And Charlie Buckingham and Austin Sperry, coming off a rough day yesterday, are looking to bounce back and have a great day today.
So they went out yesterday to test the waters. The race committee did AP over A. There was no racing today, so we're going into the first race. But they went out and tested, and I believe they lost their rig.
They did, yes. It was a bit of a learning experience for the U.S. Olympic laser rep. In Big Breeze, good opportunity to go out and see what the Star is like in those conditions. It's a difficult boat to sail in all conditions, but especially in Big Breeze, and one small mistake leads to a mast coming down, and I think he probably takes that and puts that away and doesn't make that mistake again.
Fair enough. So let's virtually fly out with our wonderful Virtual Eye tool. All the boats have trackers. Virtual Eye has made this beautiful model of Miami and Biscayne Bay. You can see on the right the city of Miami, downtown, and we fly out to the course, and it is absolutely huge. We have over 72 boats. I think the latest number at reception was 72 boats, so we think one or two may not be out there, so we're going to kind of go with around 70 at the moment. We're 6.5 minutes to the start, and you can see how long that line is for over 70 boats. And out on the water we have none other than Jenny Tulloch, great commentator and 49er sailor. Jenny, you're out there. We're seeing live shots now. We have around 6 minutes to this start. You can kind of give us a feel for the wind and conditions out there, Jenny.
Well, Digby, I think we have only about 1 minute to the start. My watch says 57 seconds. I see both the P flag has come down, so yeah, I think that's the correct 50 seconds. And as you can see, the stars are all lining up, getting ready for this race. They have been out here practicing for about an hour. It's not nearly as windy as many of us thought it was on shore. It's only about 12 to 15 knots, so I think probably a lot of the teams had to adjust their settings, maybe even adjust their, body weight once they got out, try to think about a little bit of a lighter race, but they're still going to be hiking hard. I mean, it's still hiking conditions. We have 27 seconds to go to the start, you guys.
Thanks, Jenny. We are seeing on virtual that the pin end, the furthest from you, from your camera position, is very, very crowded. There's a huge hole right in the middle of that line, and not many people at the committee boat. Jenny?
Well, there are not many... 9 seconds to go. There are not many people at the boat at all. In fact, it looks like the pen has all the stars, all the gold stars of the star class. 1 second, gun is there, and I think if it's not a boat over early at the pen, it's going to be whoever that... but I'm hearing I think, two more horns. So we have a general recall on board the race committee boat there. There were a lot of boats over at the pen, you guys. General recall, so it was just a practice start for both the sailors and ourselves.
Thank you, Jenny. Kathleen?
You saw a USA flag on the back of one of the boats, and I have a feeling that was Mark Mendelblatt sailing with Magnus Lidgedal over there. That looked like they wanted to, they tacked onto port right away. You also saw the boat from Argentina definitely pushing the line. It's going to be really hard to win the pin end of the line. Typically in Biscayne Bay with this breeze direction, the left side of the course is going to be favored. And people have been racing here all summer. The people have been racing here for 20, 30 years. They know that if they want to win today, it's best if they get down to that pin in.
So I wonder, Jeff, if you could explain a little bit why the left would be favoured, why that left-hand side going up the track.
So, as Kathleen pointed out, people have been sailing here in the winter for years and years, specifically in the stars, and Augie Diaz's father coined the phrase the old man highway. You start at or near the pin, you go all the way left, and for a number of reasons, that tends to be, on average, a good strategy. There have been ideas that there's some form of how the wind tumbles over Key Biscayne and it creates little left shifts that you don't get on the right hand side, and for one reason or another, whether it be current in some situations or that little flicks of left pressure because of Key Biscayne, I think in an easterly, if you're not going left, you better have a very good reason for going right.
Okay, well, rather interestingly, in January we were here. I happened to be here with Chris, our director for the Miami World Cup, the Olympic classes, and the wind was blowing from the other side. It was blowing through the city,
yes.
And you could see a massive wind shadow from the city over this particular course, which was fascinating from our drone angle. But right now it's the switcheroo. It's been blowing really hard over the last few days. Yesterday, as we heard earlier, a mast came down. They had AP over A, so they didn't go out racing. Carl Shellback, the PRO, the principal race officer, decided that caution was the better half of valor, and nobody was grumbling about that. So they are out now. We are pretty sure, in fact we know that they're going to do one race. They're going to have one big old 3-hour race, and we suspect, and I bumped into Carl, the race officer, this morning. He said very likely, not officially, but very likely tomorrow they'll try and recoup that one race they lost yesterday, and they'll have a 2-race day tomorrow, which means if you're watching on our live stream and YouTube and everything, we'll be live streaming an hour earlier. So there is a wind graphic going over Biscayne Bay. You can see that little island, and you can see the city on the left-hand side of the picture. The yacht club at Biscayne Bay, the Coral Reef Yacht Club, and the Biscayne Yacht Club down below, and a very, very long course. And the wind, Kathleen, coming from sort of slightly northeast.
Yeah, one of the things that's very interesting about Biscayne Bay versus other venues is that it is a very, very shallow body of water. On average, it's probably about 6 to 7 feet deep. And on the right side of the screen here, you see the sea, except at the end of the bay, the water is actually only around about 2 feet deep. So when the water is coming in and out of the bay, it's actually going through the bridges you can see on the top left-hand side of the screen. And so the water flows in and out of the bay through there and not from the ocean. And sometimes you get a bit of current that comes around Key Biscayne. But it is, you have to keep in mind that there is so much chop out there because it is such a shallow body of water.
Jeff, I would have thought, looking at that picture there, that the right would be better because it's not in the lee of that island out there.
I understand your point, but if you look at the screen right now and you look at the angles that are coming off of the windward mark, you'll notice that's a left shift.
Okay.
And for one reason or another, the right side may be nice and stable, but you never do get those flicks of advantage on the left side.
A lot of sailors have said that Biscayne Bay is a shifty place to sail, and I've tried to drill down. I asked Brian Fatih, who's one of the best star crews around. He's competing here, and Brian wasn't quite sure. And it's a mystical concept in sailing. It's very hard to gather and comprehend this whole shift. As we know, I know I'm teaching you all to suck eggs here, but as we know, the wind does not blow in one straight direction all the time. It moves around and it oscillates. But why do you think it's so shifty in Biscayne Bay?
Well, you have a couple of factors, not the least of which is the breeze out of the east is coming from the Bahamas, and it's crossing over the incredibly hot Gulf Stream, and that tends to turbulate the breeze quite a bit. Then as it gets across even further, it gets to Key Biscayne there on the left. You know, the Gulf Stream is only a few miles outside of Key Biscayne itself. So as the breeze gets to Key Biscayne, that's another turbulator, if you will, and so you tend to get, in this condition, 10 to 12 degree oscillations, and they don't follow a perfect pattern where you can almost time the shifts back and forth. You really just have to understand that the breeze, if it's not your way right now, to wait it out just a little bit, have a little bit of patience, and know that it will come back.
Cool. Good stuff. Good insights. Thank you, Jeff. Out on the water, Jenny is there on our TV camera boat with Adam, our cameraman, and they have a huge gyro camera there getting these wonderful shots. It's going to be an interesting day for them. Jenny, so turbulating.
Sorry, Digby, it's a bit hard to hear you out here. I think we are coming up to a 4-minute flag. We saw the general go down and we saw the prep flag go up, so we're just waiting for the 4-minute flag. And as you can see, the fleet has come back over towards the committee boat end. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to start here. I think, as you guys have just said in the studio, They might still like the left side. It is Biscayne Bay after all. We can hear her counting to this time. 3, 2, 1 to the 4 minutes. There we are for 4 minutes to the second start of the first race of the Bacardi Cup.
The second attempt for our first race for the Bacardi Cup. And are they flying a P flag or are they going to black flag it or U flag it?
You know what? It's an I flag now, Digby. So yeah, it'll be the 1 minute rule around the ends rule.
Okay, so nobody over the line 1 minute early, they've got to come round the end, correct?
Yeah, and in a long line like this, you don't want to be in the middle going over the line because that means you have to sail all the way around to either the committee boat end or the pin end and restart. And on a course like this, a line that's this long, you're going to lose a lot of time and distance.
Okay, we're going with the old school flag system here, and there the weather showing us fairly warm with 16 knots coming out of the easterly direction. It's been blowing easterly for the last few days. It's really blowing hard yesterday, Monday and on Sunday. Now it's just easing off, and the forecast for the rest of the week is pretty good actually. It's going to dip a little bit tomorrow and dip a little bit more, but possibly come up at the end of the week. That's long range, that's what we see, but a little bit of chop there. And perhaps going left, Jeff, means that you're in a smoother pattern of water and a bit of a smoother sail and going a little bit faster in these boats.
Certainly in the top left it may get a little bit flatter. The wave conditions may get a little bit flatter, but really it tends to be more wind driven than it is sea state. As you can tell from the shots, from the on the water shots, it is quite choppy. As you said, it's been blowing pretty hard out of the east-northeast for a few days, and the waves have really built up quite a bit, and that makes for challenging uphill star sailing. It's difficult. It's a lot of pain going through the thighs as they hike hard, and really, trying to drive the boat forward.
Well, they're going to be doing 5 legs, so they're going in a straightforward windward leeward course, up, down, and then they will finish at the upwind mark. So a lot of sailing, and it's 2 to 2.5 nautical miles between the bottom and the top of the course. Vast distances, Kathleen.
Yeah, endurance is definitely going to play a part in this race today. As we mentioned yesterday, that the Bacardi is not a typical star race. The legs are extremely long. The original Bacardi Cup back in 1927, they sailed a 10-mile course. It was a triangle course, so not windward leeward, so very, very, very long legs. And they've kept that tradition from 1927 until today. Occasionally they will run 2 races, but normally it's one very long course.
Well, with coming up to a minute to the start here, one of the past champions on the left-hand side of our screen, Xavier Rohart, Pierre Alexis Ponceau. Xavier with his name on that trophy. He's going for a committee end, rather interestingly. Not so pounding, not so piled up at the pin end with under a minute to go, a bit more spread out, a few more boats in the middle of the track, and Virtual Eye can tell us who is out on the pin end. Smith and Ernst, Voigt and Stove. Who's furthest pinnermost? Ricard and Edie. They're going, somebody's over. They're going to have to go round the ends. Smith and Ernst over the line, so they're going to have to do that 1 minute rule and come around the end and restart. So that's going to be a second row start for them. So seconds to go to race number 1, the start of the Bacardi Cup. It's looking good. We've got breeze, we've got a big course, we've got a great race committee out there. Lawrence and Coleman, the youngsters, behind the committee boats, not in such a great spot. There's our live shot. Wait for that flag to go down, and then we're off. Boom! Away we go for the first of 6 races in the Bacardi Cup.
Unfortunately, it looks like the fleet jumped the gun. Race committee has gone to a general recall again, and as you look at the Virtual Eye, it looks like the boats in the middle were perhaps a little punchy, and there were enough boats over early that the race committee decided they could not get everyone. It'll be interesting to see if the race committee moves on from the I flag.
They ratchet up the punishment detail. I think they can go to a U flag. which is nobody on course side with a minute to go. They get disqualified. Or they can go to a black flag, which we love, and I wonder if they'll do that. Black flag, anyone over early is disqualified, and they will show at the top mark who is being flicked. So, Jenny Tulloch on our camera boat out there. What did you see there, Jenny?
You know, it's a bit tough to see from here, you guys. I think it was sort of the pin/middle end of the line over again. We have heard the race committee just announce, Digby, this will make you happy, that it will be your favorite color, black flag. So I think they're ready to get a start off on this third attempt at a start. And yeah, the black flag will scare them into it for sure.
Well, I think it's predictable. I mean, I could have put money on boats being over the line, because a start in a one race day is so critical, and everyone's going to be pushing that line and hoping and gunning for a best start, because if you're in a second row start, you've got a long way to catch up. So we can understand the eagerness and the champing at the bit. All the sailors were kept ashore yesterday, no racing, so they're all fired up, and they had a wonderful Bacardi reception last night to open this whole traditional week here in Miami, and the Bacardi building, the Bacardi hosts, our sponsors, did a wonderful reception for all the sailors. Real great tradition, everyone dressed up. Very nice, old school kind of regatta.
Okay, we just heard it sounded like the flag came down, so we'll have probably 1 minute until a gun. The black
1
flag...
1 minute to the 5 minute
Exactly.
gun. Yep.
The black flag is a very powerful tool for the race committee in an event like this, where you only have one race a day. If someone's over, that means, sorry, you're going in. So I think they'll be able to control the fleet with this flag for certain.
Well, here, Kathleen Grael, Lars Grael, and Sam Conchalves from Brazil. One of our Brazilian boats here, and Lars was saying just how great it was to actually win this event. He's got his name on that trophy twice.
2 years in a row.
2 years in a row, and he's a real contender here.
Yeah, I think Lars arrived early. He's got his program going. He hasn't been in Miami this winter. He's been very busy back in Brazil. He's involved with the Brazilian Olympic Committee.
5 minutes.
And also with the economic crisis in Brazil, we haven't seen a lot of the Brazilians up here. So Lars might not be on the way he has been in the last couple of years, but he's been saddling with Samuel for years. They have time in the boat. They know Miami. And now that the breeze is down a little bit, I think they're going to be one of the top teams today.
Okay. Bow 51. We're looking at Danisbo and Bernhofer from Switzerland. And it's nice to see them wearing their bibs. Henrik, Danisbo there, their colourful Star Sailors League bibs, and they're all going for that. This is not a Star Sailors League event. We're not running this event. We're here as guests, and we're rolling into the traditional pattern of the Bacardi Cup, and it's rather nice. But interestingly, there are a lot of points on the table. The Star Sailors League have racked up 3,000 points. So there are quite a few people here. For example, Eduardo Natucci saying that he's here to rack up points to try and get himself to the Star Sailors League final in Nassau, which will be in December. And we've run 4 of those, and they've been amazing competitions. And it seems to be going down very well with the Star Sailors. And right there, Jeff, I did see that black flag.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think the virtual eye will show a little bit more gun-shy fleet. Hopefully there won't be anybody caught out on the black flag, and everybody takes it as seriously as it is. As Kathleen said, it's a little disappointing on a one-race day when you've launched your boat, you've sailed all the way out to the course, you've prepared for the last hour, and all of a sudden you have no reason to stay out.
Looking at Hubert Merkelbach, Sergio Lambertenghi. So that's a German-Italian duo. Dr. Hubert Merkelbach is a Great Lakes sailor, a former European champ. Sergio Lambertenghi, one of the stalwart crews of the Star class and the SSL. He's up there in the top 10 rank, and they've come together for this event. Diego Negri, Sergio's usual skipper, I think he's off. He's preoccupied doing something else. Could be on TB52s. Who knows?
Yeah.
They're running around on in Miami at the moment.
And Sergio has been second in this event last year, second in the world for the last 2 or 3 years. But he's teamed up with Hubert. They have sailed a little bit together, but going out there, they haven't had much time in the boat on Biscayne Bay together. So I think it'll take him some time to get their wheels going.
Well, here, look, Rohart Ponceau again at the bottom of our screen going for a committee boat start. Interesting, Jeff.
Well, it was interesting. If you looked at the live shot there, you see that unlike on Virtual Eye, where it's a beautiful sunny day over Miami,
perfect.
It looks almost as if we have rain clouds developing over Miami and to the north of us, and that oftentimes will affect the breeze as well. It's maybe not a standard sunny easterly sea breeze, so it is very possible that the weather, the clouds themselves will make a big impact on this first beat, and the smart sailors are looking up into the clouds as much as they are straight up the course.
And one of the other things is that the current is switching just around noon, and that makes this race course, it still would be left, but there's going to be a little bit more right in it. You won't want to go bang hard left the way you normally would. You almost take a ladder up the left-hand side of the course, so there's going to be a little bit more right than what you're accustomed to seeing with the change in current.
Well, the youngsters, Lawrence and Coleman, also going for a committee boat end. Jenny Tulloch, we're coming up to 1 minute. A lot more boats around you and the camera boat at the moment.
A lot more boats around us, in fact, Digby. I mean, I think a part of what we've seen in the last 2 starts was that it is such a long line that once you're getting up towards the line, it is really, really hard to tell how far you are from the line. And so, yeah, as we know, these guys are antsy to get racing. They've been pushing it really hard, but that means you then see them get towards the ends on the black flag start, because you absolutely want to nail the start. You do not want to be over, and that means you're either close to the pin or close to the boat. And as we can see, these guys getting close to the boat. But I kind of agree with Jeff. I'm not sure. There's definitely darker clouds coming in over the city. Perhaps they're worried about it getting light over on that side, so we're seeing them switch their game plan up a little bit. I mean, we are seeing about 20 boats piled up right off of our shot, and there's only 20 seconds to go, Digby.
Okay, well, we're looking at virtual there, a good spread right across the line. You can see that curve right behind the committee boat, quite a bunch up there. Italians, Americans, Swiss, and there's the flag about to come down. We'll see that orange flag dip down, boom, away we go, and they're off to a start. Let's hear any more horns or guns. I didn't hear anything, Jeff. I think that was a clean start.
It appears your black flag has worked.
Yep.
Okay, we see Xavier Rohart, France, right there in the screen. Excellent start. We also saw
French
Brian
flag, bow
Ledbetter,
37.
who had a very good start. That was one of your picks for today, Jeff.
That's
well done.
right.
And Lars Grael, who won in 2014 and 2015
exactly.
with Samuel, also down at that end. What we're not seeing is where is the reigning world champion, Augie Diaz, George Szabo, some other big names, Mark Mendelblad. I have a feeling they're down at the other end.
Okay, well, as we fly along the leading line, Chiarella Castle just crossing the line in a sort of 4th ranked start. Come on, John Chiarella. He's done 50 of these events and totally loves it out here, and he's an absolute star. We love John Chiarella.
We just saw Frida Clean with Jack Jennings. They're down towards the pin end, but a little bit more conservative, a little bit further up to windward.
We see
There's your
Mendelblad and
Mendelblad
Liljedahl.
with Magnus Liljedahl. Mendelblad from the USA, Magnus from Sweden, and they've come together for this event. Magnus, in fact, works here. In fact, he works in the office right next to where we're talking, encouraging the Paralympic project here in the USA. So they are going to be ones to watch as well.
Yeah, for sure. They both have so much experience on Biscayne Bay in the starboat. Mark now lives here in Miami. Magnus lives here in Miami. Magnus has won this event 5 times with various skippers, so he is the 4th highest winner at the Bacardi Cup, and he's a crew. And he's sought after, and he was kind of a last-minute decision to do this event, but I think he couldn't turn down the offer to sail with Mark.
I think Mark has won it twice, am I correct?
No, Mark has not won it.
Mark Mendelblad with Brian Fati.
Yeah.
He won in 2013 and 2005 with Mark Struby. Struby is also here, which is pretty cool.
So it's interesting, you look at the distance to the leaders, and we have Mendelblad, who started down towards the pin, is the current leader. as we flew down the line, Andy Mack and John von Schwartz were more in the middle of the line, and then Szabo was sort of in the upper middle, and Lars Grail only 10 meters off the lead, and he started virtually at the boat. So it was obviously a square line, and there is not much in it for the leaders right now.
Well, Jenny, Virtual Eye is giving us a bit of a lead line, a bit of a bulge out towards the left-hand side of the track, the big bunch who were nearer the pin end. And at the moment, it is giving us Mendelblatt and Lil Jal, the American-Swedish duo, poking a nose out front, and they are quite far left. One of the furthest boats furthest away from you, Jenny. Over to you, Jen, just for a second.
Copy. Yeah, I mean, we obviously can't tell. We're going up the right-hand side of the course.
Yeah.
The guys that we've got right in front of us, I would absolutely love for them to be doing well, because it is Ledbetter, Brian Ledbetter, sailing with his son, Eric. So I think if we could see some sort of a right shift, I would be hoping to have the father-son duo get just a little love on this side. It can go back to Mendelblatt and the guys on the left, but I'm not sure, you guys. We've got some really good breeze in front of us here on the camera boat, and they might have picked it right out here.
Well, we can see Brian and Eric Ledbetter, bow 41. They're in our shot as we talk. And look at the sun. There's obviously a lot of cloud going over above, half the picture in shadow and half in sunlight. Fascinating shot, looking back towards the city of Miami.
Yeah, Brian Ledbetter actually won the Western Hemisphere Championship last year here in actually I don't remember where that was, but he won with Josh Revkin recently, so he's been on the circuit, putting time into the boat, but now he's sailing with his son, and that's pretty exciting. They didn't have a lot of time to go out on the water prior to the event because of the windy conditions to practice, so it's great to see them up there in the front right now.
Well, our leader line is still showing Mendelblatt and Lil Jal leading just ahead of Jennings and Clean. Fritjof Clean sailing with Jack Jennings. Frida, as he's known, Fritjof, the crew. He is the reigning Bacardi Cup champ. He won last year with Robert Staniek. Robert, he's back in Germany with his newborn baby, which is rather sweet. We've seen some lovely pictures on Facebook, and we might try and Skype Robert tomorrow. But Fritjof Clean sailing with Jack Jennings in second at the moment.
Yeah, we just saw the Americans Ledbetter tack over, kind of consolidating with the fleet on that starboard tack. And just coming into view right now, you have Ivan Melleby with Josh Revkin on the other tack, one of the few boats still going that way. So that's a little interesting, being forced to tack back towards the left-hand side of the course.
Looking at the leaderboard, we have the pride of Gull Lake, Michigan, and the gentleman who built all the P-Stars, and I believe the current U.S. class president, John Vandermeulen, sailing with TC Belco, and they started down by the pin just to leeward of Mendelblatt and Lilledal, and apparently they're enjoying the drag race to the left.
Okay, you can see the crews right there. They're pretty far out. You've got to notice some of them, the technique with their hand on their head that helps them to get their weight out even further, helping to keep the boat a little bit flatter. I don't know, does that also help keep your head up?
It does. Your head is actually pretty heavy, and when you're lying down in the droop hiking position and trying to conserve your energy, it's amazing how much that can be a little bit of added comfort.
Droop hiking position, the droop hiking position. First time I've heard anyone describe it as that, but it's good description, Jeff.
Yeah, so the crews generally will come off the line hiking, straight leg hiking, pretty hard, as if you would when you're on a laser or on a fin. But it's difficult for the skipper to see over the top of the crew, and it also shifts the center of gravity up slightly, so when the crew can drop down into a droop hiking position, the center of gravity gets down, the boat pitches a little bit less, and the skipper has a much better view of the waves that they're coming into.
Okay. So I've always wondered, how does the crew see what's going on in the race course? You guys are getting wet, you're getting splashed in conditions like this. I can't imagine actually being able to look around at what's going on and help give valuable information to your skipper.
So it's actually difficult. It takes a little bit of practice. You do tend to pop up just enough to check in with the compass so that you can be feeding it that information back to the skipper while they're looking around. They're in a little bit of a better spot to see the waves and the breeze that you're coming into, and also to see the competitors around you. It is difficult when you're in the low position to see much, especially over your backside, but the jib window is positioned just right so that if you just pop up slightly, you can see anything it is to head and ahead and to leeward of you. And so it's not impossible to call boats coming at you, but it is not an easy spot to be a tactician.
Well, we're seeing pretty much everybody hammering away towards the left-hand side of the track. Almost everybody on starboard track. A few now just beginning to tack over onto starboard to head out. So 1.5 nautical miles now to the top mark. Lawrence and Coleman, who took that committee boat and start, Buckingham and Moss, there they go, and Mansman and Celestini to the right-hand side of the track. But the leaders, Mendelblatt and Liljal, Jennings and Clean, Van der Molen and Belko, Vesselar and Trinta heading up the left-hand side.
Now, one of the interesting things is because you have such a large fleet and such long legs, the guy that's furthest on the left-hand side, they have to find the right moment to tack back, because we see everyone's going to the left-hand side, but there's only so many clean lanes to head you back towards the mark. So it's very difficult to choose that moment in such a big fleet to get a very good lane with clean air to head back.
It does take a lot of patience, and you'll notice that the leaders tend to be able to sail in a straight line for 4 or 5 minutes.
Well, bottom of our screen, George Szabo with Eduardo Natucci. Looks like they're coming back in, Kathleen. I wonder if they have some gear damage. That's really bad news for the American-Italian pair of George Szabo, Eduardo Natucci. And there is the shot. George Szabo, former world champ with his gold star. They are heading back to the club and the hoist to come in. That's really bad news, because Eduardo is here to rack up points and get himself to the Nassau final. And if they get a discard, this will be their discard. I think after 4 races, they're allowed to discard 1. They will probably and most likely run 6 races for the Bacardi Cup. They'll more than likely run 2 races tomorrow to catch up for the one we lost yesterday. But sad news for George Szabo and Eduardo Natucci. Favourites, I would say, for the podium, at least the top 10, heading back towards the clubhouse.
Yeah, I think the only positive about that is they're going to be well rested. It's windy out there, and they'll maybe have a little bit more energy than some of the other teams by not racing today.
Every cloud has a silver lining, and maybe George will come and join us for a bit of commentary. Who knows?
That'd be nice.
Okay, so back to the race. We are pretty much halfway up this first beat. If you've just joined us, we're into the first race of the Bacardi Cup. 1 of 6 races will be racing over today and the next following 4 days, finishing on Saturday. We think we'll have 2 races tomorrow, but we're in for a mega 5-leg course. Upwind, downwind, and then the final upwind leg to finish at the top. And the course distance, I think, is about 2.4 nautical miles, something around that length, which 2 nautical miles. Thanks, Paul from Virtual Eye, to confirm 2 nautical miles. Quite different from your Olympic class courses now. We're going for much shorter, quicker. So this is very old school style racing.
That's 6 miles of hiking. That is going to put a tax on a lot of people today, and it really, this class exemplifies the the Olympic motto, higher, stronger, faster. The Star class sailors are as fit as you get. The top end Star class sailors, if they were to walk into a pub, you'd swear they were rugby players.
When I started working with the Star Sailors League about 4 years ago in Nassau, all these huge guys, you're surrounded by these giants, and it's rather intimidating to start with until you start to get to know them all, and you realise they're just passionate sailors like everybody else, and really great fun. So a little update from Seb from the Star Sailors League. There's a few of them without trackers out there, and I just should let you know, if your family and friends watching and thinking, well, where's Della and Torre and Fuchs and Ruiz and Ledbetter 41, McCallum, Longarina, Line,
Longarella, two
Longarella.
Argentinian brothers. Line, McGowan, Larry Whipple, and Dole, no trackers.
No trackers. Well,
we did see Brian Ledbetter actually with an excellent start, so our camera has been on him. We kind of know where he is. He's out in the front a little bit. And the others I have not yet seen on the television.
Okay, fair enough, but visually we'll be able to see them as they go around the top mark, and we'll get a proper ranking for you. And Jenny can keep an eye on the boats that haven't got trackers on. But right now, Virtual Eye is giving us Mendelblatt and Liljar winning almost from the start.
Yeah, they're going to have excellent boat speed. I think Mark is very well dialed into his sail setup. I don't know if they even sailed before today. Mark does a lot of pro sailing. Magnus is busy running his disabled sailing program here right at the sailing center. So they're busy guys, but a lot of time in the boat. Talented sailors who know the bay. So I'm not surprised to see them winning at this moment. But looking down, just in third place, we have Alberto Zanetti from Buenos Aires, Argentina, sailing with former Bacardi winner Mark Struby, and they've been doing the winter circuit here in Miami. They've done really well. They've won some races, and they're gunning today for another good series.
Few Argentinian crews here, and they're very proud. I bumped into twins who are
Hector
racing
and Hugo
together.
Longarella.
Yeah, and they were just loving the whole thing, loving being here, and very complimentary about the Star Sailors League, so we appreciate that. Thank you very much, and I hope they watch the replay, and I hope they get on well. So at the moment, Zanetti from Argentina with Mark Struby in 4th position.
Now I'm looking at the top 10 on the leaderboard, and almost every single boat in the top 10 either has a former Bacardi champion or a world champion on board. That's quite a statistic.
Right out there is, who's that, about 68. Prada and Rushman. So Brazilian crew there, Brazilian team poking a nose out and heading towards that top mark. You can see how hard they're hiking, you can see how hard they're working, and you can see how bouncy and choppy it is out there.
Yeah, and just behind them we actually have in bow 40 one interesting team down from Newport, Rhode Island, and the crew is actually a young woman. She's probably only about 25 years old, Elizabeth Escalera, sailing with her father. So another family out there. We've got a bunch of women, meaning about 4, sailing in this event this year. But the Star is just typically a boat where we spoke about it, very large cruise, and we have a number of women crews out there, and I believe 1 woman driver, or maybe 2.
Well, those are the live shots as our committee boat, as our TV boat makes its way up towards the top mark. Here is the leader line, 7 meters Mendelblatt over Landgren.
It looks as if the distance to leader may have a little bit of a challenge going to it, but the live shot and the virtual eye itself looks, there we go, that's better. Again, Lilledal and Mendelblatt continue to lead from the left. They've picked their time, it appears, and they're coming back towards the mark on port tack. And likely Mark is getting information from Mags talking about boats that they are crossing, and with a 12-meter lead across to the second place boat, that should be enough to get them around the top mark cleanly if nothing changes.
And we've also seen Ivan Melleby and Josh Revkin sailing for Norway just coming to the top of the leaderboard. No surprise there. We didn't see them for most of this upwind leg in that top 10. But there they are. It looks like they're in about 7th or 8th position.
Kathleen, as you said, there are some teams here that have their sail package dialed in. They know exactly what the tuning is. And boat speed tends to make you look pretty smart tactically. So if you can get off the line and just have good boat speed, chances are we're going to be talking about you at the front end of the pack as we come out of the left corner. And now boats all seem to be, more than 50% of the fleet is tacked over onto port, and they're making their way back from the left side of the course towards mark number 1.
Now, every race of any regatta is very important, but in such long courses like this, in such a large fleet, this first windward beat is tremendously important because it's a case where we always say the rich get richer. So if you can get around that windward mark, get around the offset mark in the top 20, your chances of staying there are very good, but your chances of working your way up in such a large fleet with so few lanes from the middle of the pack is very slim. So these guys are just trying to like put their jets on the last part of this upwind leg and get around the top pack, and they're pretty much guaranteed to stay there. The top guys can work their way through the fleet slowly by one boat at a time, but it's very hard.
Well, interesting little bunch there, Mendelblatt and Liljal, Vesela and Trinta. We can see the Frenchmen are in there, Rohard and Ponceau in that little clump there in the middle, coming across Grail and Conchalves from Brazil, Diaz and Prada in the mix there, looking fairly tasty. Doyle, Infeliz a little bit further back. So we're seeing Mendelblatt and Liljal really controlling the fleet now in that controlling mode, coming across, coming right across the majority of the fleet, and they'll be looking towards the ley line. The French crew, the French team, Rohard and Ponceau, former Bacardi Cup winners, former world champ Xavier Rohard, and he's one of the top French sailors. He's an Olympic coach. He now coaches the 49er team for the French Olympic team, as well as I believe the NACRA team, so he's got a lot on. We're going to ask Xavier later on after this race to come into the studio and analyse the tactics and racing, so we'll play that tomorrow.
Digby, that was a great shot. As you saw them sailing across, you could see they were both putting a lot of effort in physically, and they are one of the teams that has that ability. If they get themselves into just a little bit of trouble, they're very fit, very strong, and as much as it is difficult to notice the difference and feel the difference when you hike really hard in a star, it makes a huge difference. And you'll see Xavier will be hiking super hard and trying to make up the small deficit that they have, and he's one of those sailors that Kathleen talked about that has the jets to be able to sail up through a fleet and get back to a top 5 finish.
Well, indeed, as does Lars Grail with Sam Conchalves, 2 times winner of this Bacardi Cup. And look at them with the green Brazilian bibs on. Lars, number 5 in the his best position in the skipper ranking. That's what the number 5 means on his little bib. Everyone's got a number, bet their best ever ranking in the Star Sailors League. And look at them carving across, just waiting to pick their moment to head out. And Sam Conchalves, he's talking to Lars, relaying information, looking behind Lars looking forward, and they've just had a lee bow tacker right underneath them. It was Danisbo and Bernhofer, and there are the Frenchmen just coming into the shot there, Rohard and Ponceau, and it looks like Lars is going to cross ahead of Xavier Rohard and Pierre-Alexis Ponceau as we get into the meaty end of this first beat, getting up to that top mark.
That is a very nice sailing by Lars getting across the fleet. Sometimes it's hard from the camera angle to tell how close these boats are together. That's one of the troubles we have with watching sailboat racing. But right now, Lars has really great speed. You could have seen before his crew craning his neck, looking over his shoulder. He's giving Lars info about the angles of the boats that are off their backs. And right now, they're going to be looking for a lane to tack, and there it goes.
Boom, there they go. And they've just tacked onto Ivan Melleby and Josh Revkin, the Norwegian-American duo, and they are contenders here. Ivan Melleby, an amazing sailor from Norway, a real firebrand. He's sailing with one of the best star crews on the circuit right now, Josh Revkin. And here's our leader, Mendelblatt, hammering up towards that top mark. Magnus Liljal, his crewman, the former gold medalist. I think he's won gold at least twice in the star class. London 2012 was the last Olympics for the Star, and now they're out on their own back, carving their own path. But the class is just such a magnificent class, and we're enjoying this first race of the Bacardi Cup.
We just saw Vesela and Trinter taking the lead there. That's another seasoned team down in Miami all winter long. They're in all sorts of boats. They race lasers, they're on TB52s, but they do take a lot of time during the winter to come down and sail the Star boat.
Well, we're getting to the sharp end of this first leg upwind. Great shots from the water. Mendelblatt in the mix there, as are the Frenchmen. Bao 74, Lars Grail, Sam Conchalves from Brazil. They're gunning away in that little group there. 43 just carving through Augie Diaz, Bruno Prada. So it's getting super tight up towards this mark rounding. Let's jump out once more to Jenny Tulloch. Jenny, we're seeing great bow shots as the group head over to the ley line to get onto that top mark.
So tight, so close to this ley line as well, but I think they still probably have about 3 more minutes of legging it out on port tack. So I wasn't sure that Lars was going to cross all the way across and then consolidate behind Mendelblatt, but obviously he has done. It would have cost him a couple more tacks to come out to the right, but you know, as Jeff said earlier, you have to go with your wind shift and you have to just wait for the next one. It's never absolutely settled here on Biscayne Bay. So I think what we're seeing now is teams deciding what last shift they can take into this top mark, and I think probably we're going to see Mendelblatt hold it off. Bow 84-81 looking quite strong at this moment.
Okay, thanks Jenny. Jenny is on our TV cat, ploughing their way up the right hand side towards the top mark, and we'll try and go back to them as they head around the top mark. Lawrence and Coleman coming into the mix on the right hand side with Prada and Rushman, and we're seeing a few of the guys coming into the mix from the right now, some of the right hand tackers, but it really looked, as we were talking earlier in the race, like the left was paying, and Mendelblatt, Liljard, Vesela, Trinta up there coming across towards the lane. Grail, Conchalves, Meleby, Revkin, our Argentinian, Zanetti with Struby from the USA, Rohard and Ponceau, Doyle and Infelice there, Jack Jennings with Fritjof Clean. Frida Fritjof Clean, he is the defending champ of the Bacardi Cup. Very proud to have been one of the crew, with the first German crew to ever have won the Bacardi Cup. And his regular guy, Robert Staniek, back home with a newborn baby. And if Robert's watching, congratulations, that's wonderful news. We will try and Skype into you tomorrow and get a bit of chit-chat, because we've got 2 races tomorrow, we think.
Yeah, one of the teams that must have jets right there is Buckingham and Moss. They started at the boat end. They went there for almost every single start. And we really haven't seen many boats, started on the right. They went up the right-hand side of the course. And we haven't seen many boats from the right side make it into the top 20. But there they are, climbing their way up. And that would indicate to me that they're going very fast.
I think the live shot here tells the real story of just how tight the racing is. The virtual eye doesn't really show how tight the lanes are, how difficult it is if you're not in the lead pack to find a clean lane of breeze, and really it becomes cost-benefit analysis, if you will. How bad is this lane actually if we're going in the direction that we want to go in, and can we hang here? And you'll see that the boats at the front, as Kathleen mentioned earlier, tend to get a little bit richer for that very reason. And it is a special kind of sailor who can find their way from the middle of the pack and work their way back through to a top 5 finish. It's quite challenging.
Well, there we can see Phil Trinta, crewman with Peter Vasella, the leaders at the moment. Virtualize giving them as the leaders going up towards the top mark. Rohart and Ponceau in about 5th, 6th position, and they're back to bow 52. Phil Trinta just leaning his weight over and going very nicely indeed.
You can see the boat just to windward of them, they had a small little stick, and that is a weed stick. The Star boats, even though it's a 2-person boat, is a keel boat with a big keel, and out here in Biscayne Bay we have weed, and so occasionally you'll see the crew pull out a small little stick and try to get the weed, the algae, off the keel so they can get their speed up again.
Gets caught on the top of the bulb, and they have these special designed sticks that are right at the crew's hand. They're wrapped in line with a little bit of a tail on them, and you can jam the stick in at the bow, have it naturally fall against the keel, and then scrape down the leading edge of the keel, and that clears the weed.
Well, a bit of traffic towards the top mark. Some camera boats and judges and juries and spectators out there seeing how the racing is going. Phil Trinter giving a lot of chit-chat to Peter Vasella, his helmsman, as they approach there. Phil just calling it, and a lot of tactics coming from the crews in these boats.
Phil's been sailing these boats for as long as anybody. He knows exactly the angles and is giving great information to Peter, and really likes to paint the picture so that Peter can just focus on the 3 waves in front of him and keeping the boat driving forward. And somebody with the talent of Phil Trinter is able to do that. It does take years to develop that sense and know exactly what your angles are and when the boat feels right and you're going fast, and he's giving that information as well. You can see they've just tacked on the virtual eye, so they think they're on the ley line, and Phil would have helped make that call, and now it looks like they're going to have a nice handy lead here at mark number 1.
Well, super communications. They've played this first leg perfectly. Trinter and Vasella about 52, just approaching that top mark, and we can see I think it's the Frenchman in the background coming in on the other ley line, ducking in underneath the mark. And here we will see the order of proceedings, and we can jump very quickly back to Jenny, if you can hear us. Jenny Tulloch.
Digby, I can. Sorry, we are in and out of signal out here. We're a bit far out on Biscayne Bay. But yes, Phil Trinter and Peter Vasella. I didn't actually hear you guys say which way they went up the course. Obviously, they got ahead of Mark Mendelblatt, who's just rounding now in 2nd place. And then 3rd place looks like bow 80. So
Arthur
Anazov and David Caesar. And then we've got, of course, Xavier Rohart and Pierre-Alexis Ponceau, and then a very tight bunch behind them. So there's another gold star just behind him, bow 23.
Eric Doyle.
Bow 64, I think you guys said, is Frida as well. 98 is Argentinians, another Brazilian team with another gold star, bow 74.
Lars Grill.
And then the back of that pack is bow 89. So a very tight pack for almost what looks like the top 10, or at least the 3rd to 10th positions. Just behind them, about 3 boats back. Now we're getting to almost the entire rest of the fleet. Another gold star, which is bow 43.
Augie Diaz, Bruno Prada.
Augie, reigning world champions, in fact. The Norwegians, 2 blue stars, which I think are district champions, a US team, a Swiss team. A silver star, which you guys have told me is a hemisphere championship. Another gold star, 8490. And then a lot of USA, and another silver star in there, a lot of USA sails all in a row. And then a Croatian team coming through, bow 60, just about to round.
Marina Missoura.
Missoura and Barak.
Thanks, you guys. Okay, 2 more US teams. The Germans, bow 21. Just behind the Germans, another Brazilian team. Another silver star with 8203. And I believe you might have said that. No, sorry, that wasn't Zabo. That was bow 20 earlier. Do we have any idea why Zabo had to go in yet, Digby?
We don't. I mean, they've headed straight back towards the dock. We saw their sail up. We didn't see the mast down. They were sailing, but clearly something severe enough for them to had to have pulled out. And I don't think it was over the line. I didn't hear any horns. I don't think they were black flag. I could be wrong, but we didn't hear any extra guns or horns on the start line. It sounded like a clear start, but unfortunately they are out. And just look at this fleet heading around, beginning to stretch out even after 1 leg. And these leaders are just going to shoot off on their own, and this first leg has been utterly crucial.
I think you'll see that on the downwind leg, the only gains that generally get made are by, I'd call them a lone wolf. If you can be the downwind boat that stays away from packs of other boats, that's where you tend to make your biggest gains. Clumps of boats tend to go slower than individual boats. They're stealing each other's winds, and they're sort of playing a chess game among themselves, while somebody, a lone wolf, is off doing their own thing and just pushing hard and going fast without really considering the boat around them.
Amazing shot as they go around the top mark and the little spreader mark. The water churned up by these heavy stars, these keel boats. They've been racing these stars for over 100 years. Great tradition in the class, a real connoisseurs class. It seems to attract some of the best in sailing. And in the Star Sailors League, we've been doing some VIP invites, which has been rather interesting for the final.
Well, this
in
could be
Nassau.
interesting.
Kathleen?
I was just going to say this was an entrance there by the Germans just squeaking in. And right now I've only seen one boat jibe after the offset mark. It wasn't an excellent jibe. It's pretty wavy and choppy out there. But people are mostly going to stay towards the right-hand side facing downwind here. You've seen right now on the screen, as I said, just a few boats. It was the Argentinian team. And you can delay your jibe back to the other side of the course with this current condition right now. You can delay it a little bit longer than you would just because of the way the current's running.
Okay, so Vissela and Trinta are taking the lead. Rohard Ponceau beginning to claw their way up into second position ahead of Eric Doyle and Empelise, the Argentinian Zanetti with Mark Struby there just ahead of Grail and Conchalves.
Yeah, it looks
And
like
right
we've had
now
a
we
little
can
bit of a
actually see
mix-up.
Mendelblatt. We don't see Augie Diaz on this leaderboard. I'm not sure what happened.
Could be that 2 miles is the extent of the range that we have on some of these boats.
Yeah. On our trackers. So to explain, as you know, watching this, each boat has a tracker. Some of them didn't pick up their trackers this morning, and if you were watching and you're wondering where your boat is in Virtual Eye, here's the list of boats that we don't have on Virtual. It's Della and Torre, Fuchs, Ruiz, Ledbetter on bow 41, bow 42, McCallum, bow 49, Longarella, I think that bow 76, Line, bow 79, MacGurn, if I can read that properly, bow 84, Whipple, bow 87, Dole.
And
No
Dole is
trackers.
actually having a pretty good race. I saw him up in the top third.
Okay, well, we're mixing up our commentary with Virtual Eye, with our trackers and our technology and our wonderful camera out there on the water, giving us the live, beautiful shots as they make their way down on leg 2 towards the bottom gate. And just look how close that is, Jeff. Beautiful star sailing, and a bit of relief actually after all that hiking and work. It's a little bit less work, but the helm can still rock and move the boat around.
Yeah, now, unlike other Star Sailors League events, when they're going downwind, it is not legal to rock the boat and pump. Well, it's 1 pump per wave. So in some of our Star Sailors League events, we've had open pumping once the breeze comes up. But because this is not a Star Sailors League event, it is not legal to do more than 1 pump on a wave, and it is not legal to rock the boat unless you are using that motion to steer the boat down. So people will push it. The top guys know how to go fast and sail within the legal limits on the line. So you can just see there, Germany, the skipper pumped the main sheet. And you've got waves out there. Now, these aren't big waves. They're choppy. They're closer together, which makes it a little bit more difficult to gather your speed after you pump the main sheet. But you'll notice probably a difference between these boats going downwind, kind of in the middle of the pack, and the guys in the front. They're probably going to be a little bit more aggressive, a little more active on the boat downwind. But as we said, it is windy out there. It is choppy. You can see people taking some time to take a sip of water. But in the front of the boat, in front of the fleet, you're probably not going to see that.
Have a Coke and a smile. There he is.
He is. I think it's a Diet Coke. It looks like it. I can't tell who that is.
Looks like
actually.
you're selling for Chile.
Okay.
Yes, as you noticed in that picture, the crews were actually sitting back in the cockpit, which is a little bit odd for a star. I think that is one of 2 things happening. They're either a little bit gassed from the beat, and they're taking just a moment before they get up and stand up near the mast, or it could be that the chop is such that standing forward and by the mast, they're actually putting the bow through waves, and so they're no, as you see there, the guys at the pointy end of the fleet are sitting a little bit further forward.
It's Bonhoeffer from Switzerland.
And just trying to have the bow kiss the front, the water kiss the front of the bow, make the boat as long as it can possibly be without driving the bow into and through the waves. We're looking for a long water line that helps make the boat go fast.
that there is some natural rocking movement with the boat caused from the waves. Oh, you can see their bow just going in. That is one thing that the crews have to do. They do bow maintenance. You don't want that bow to stick into the waves when it's going down. And so the crews will move forward and back. You can see the boat just below the, that was Frida, Fridtjof Kleen and Jack Jennings, the U.S. team. They just went on the screen. Frida was much further forward on the bow.
You might just see the shoulders dance a little bit to help process the rocking.
Well, Isao Toyama from Japan, their crewman, is rather good. I think he's one of our only Japanese sailors sailing in the Bacardi Cup with Tom Londrigan. And they're having a great race, actually. They're up in the top 15, hammering downwind towards the bottom mark.
Ian Coleman.
Luke Lawrence, Ian Coleman, pair of youngsters. Luke Lawrence, very integral into getting some of the a lot of younger sailors into the star class, and they have set up a loaner program, which is rather interesting, where they can borrow boats and facilitate.
And you'll notice that Ian is one of the few crews up on the bow, standing up. And Ian is probably also one of the lighter crews out there. Luke is a very large, big guy, so he has a little bit lighter crew, which allows Ian to get a little bit more forward. And you can see Luke, he's probably a little bit more active with steering and rocking. He's coming from the Finn class, where they're doing that legally now during races. And they have been sailing this whole winter series together. We saw them start at the boat end, and we didn't really see them in the leaderboard until that windward mark.
Well, they're working hard there, Jeff, I would say, and really a fascinating fleet, because we have youngsters in their early 20s and some of the oldsters in their 80s racing out here. And it's a wonderful. Oh, I don't know, oldsters, I just made that one up. Our veteran sailors, as we should say, masters. And in the trophies, there are hundreds of trophies to be won, and there are seniors and veterans and all kinds of things. But really, they're all gunning for the Bacardi Cup, that wonderful, wonderful trophy that we filmed this morning. And a few names on that trophy are racing out here, amongst them Grail and Conchalves from Brazil. Lars Grail just saying he was so proud to be the first Brazilian team to have their name on that trophy, as Fridtjof Kleen was saying he was so proud to be the first German team to have their name on that trophy. So a famous trophy, the Bacardi Cup, and that's what this competition is all about. Glory.
The prestige of this trophy really does draw the very best talent. Anybody that could find a star and have the time to be in Miami,
Okay,
they made it happen.
Mark Mendelblad and Magnus Lidjedal. Magnus is 63 years old. He has won this event 5 times, the top crew in the star class history of the Bacardi Cup, and he has a very unique form up there on the bow. And I don't know, Jeff, talk to us. How does he staying on there?
Well, the boats are a bit slippery. You see he has his hand on the mast just in case, and he's got his foot wrapped just behind the cap shrouds there, and he's sliding fore and aft again, trying to keep the fore and aft pitch of the boat just right, so that the boat is not digging through the waves too much, and it is, as I said, going for long water line. And you can see a very active upper body in Mark Mendelblad, working hard. Every time he moves his upper body, he's actually pumping the main, and that's a reaction to each of the waves. And you can see that they seem to be making gains there. Is that is Peter Vasella?
Yes, it is.
So you can see Mark is a little bit more active in the boat. Peter's a little bit more stately. There he is. He's making a bit of a move. Maybe Phil Trinter's giving him an earful. But Mark's working really hard, and he's trying to capitalize on every single wave. And yeah, that's a perfect shot of the two of them, different styles. And as you can see, Mark is making his style work pretty well.
And Mark is also a little bit more back in the boat, which is probably also helping keep his bow up just a little bit more. But their timing in terms of pumping and surfing down the waves seems to be a little bit more efficient than Vasella and Trinter.
Mark is treating this star as he would a laser.
Exactly.
He's steering on every wave. He's using his body to help steer the boat. The rudder, while it does turn the boat well, is a fairly inefficient brake. And so if you can do it by your body weight, and affect the steering just with your body weight, that tends to make your boat a little bit quicker. And you can see Mark is making that work pretty well.
Well, just to explain that Mark Mendelblatt is not on our tracker, so that's why you can't see him on Virtual Eye, but in reality Mendelblatt and Leeljalj are nosing ahead and in the front row. Virtually we are now seeing Rohard and Ponceau, Doyle, Infeliz, Vasella and Trinta just behind. A little bit spread out, everybody trying to find their own little lane, heading downwind. Great to see Ivan Melleby and Josh Revkin in that mix, as well as Ian Coleman and Luke Lawrence. Luke there on the red hat, helming away, and away they go. A little jibe. Ian Coleman just heading up towards the front of the boat, standing up into that position again, Kathleen.
Yeah, I don't think people understand just how much energy it takes to stand in a position like that. Or you saw Magnus and Phil before, just looked like they were lying on a sofa going downwind, but they're using every muscle to actually keep their body on that boat and apply pressure when they need to apply pressure to the bow to help the bow go down and surf down a wave. They look like they're doing things very casually, but actually at the same time it's also very athletic.
It is. It actually takes a lot just to stay lying in a prone position on a very slippery bow of a starboat. It's only about 2.5 feet, 3 feet wide up where they're lying, and water coming over the bow every once in a while. And they're not wearing very sticky suits. They're
Lycra.
They're dressed in Lycra, so they tend to grip with their fingernails and their toenails a little bit, and give good feedback and slide in just the right position for each individual wave and try and draw the most out of the boat that they can.
Well, some impressive downwind speed by the Frenchmen Rohard and Ponceau, who were in fifth, sixth around the top mark, and boom, up they are into second spot behind Mark Mendelblatt and Magnus Leeljalj. So interesting, the Frenchmen have some great downwind speed, as did Doyle and Infeliz. Grail Conchalvis in that mix with Vasella and Trinta, who looks a little bit perhaps like they've dropped behind slightly, because they did have the lead at one stage.
You can see Phil has slid back into the boat again. It could be that they're getting into a little bit more chopped up water conditions, and he's trying to just pitch the bow up slightly to stop the bow from digging. You see Xavier in the background again.
Much more rock.
He looks fairly still, but he may have his mane set up a little twistier, helping to accentuate the rock. And he looks as if he's being very subtle. I suspect he and his crew are both helping that boat to get a little bit unbalanced, if you will. And you can see
an amazing two-shot, I have to say. The difference between those two boats and the movement of the mast and the sail, astonishing.
It is remarkable what you can learn watching these things. It's stuff you don't really see when you're on board and crewing. You don't get to notice the differences, and it's amazing when I was out coaching stars for a season how much I took away from sitting in a coach boat, and I could then, when I got back into a star, translate that into how to race the boat well. And what an opportunity for us to be here and to see shots like that. You couldn't possibly be in a better catbird seat to learn how to get the most out of a star than watching these full-on professional rock stars.
Well, let's just throw out to Jenny on our camera boat. Mendelblatt and Leeljalj first around the bottom gate. They've done one lap, and the American-Swedish duo have clawed their way into the lead. Over to you, Jenny.
Now, one of the teams that kind of disappeared from our tracker was Ivan Melleby and Josh Revkin, and they're actually right now in about the top 6. So if you've been watching, if you haven't seen them, they're not on the tracker, but they're out there and they're in the top 10.
Okay, sorry, we couldn't get hold of Jenny just then, but no dramas, will carry on here. Leeljalj just heading upwind now. The Frenchman, looking really good. Great downwind speed, and just coming around as well. Melleby, Norway, he's in the mix, as well as who's that? 52. Vasella, Trenta, who were first around that top mark.
And that looked like that Argentine Alberto Zanetti sailing with Mark Strube almost looked like they hit the mark. That would be tough if they had to spin in these conditions. You do not want to do a penalty circle.
Huge heaps of main sheet being pulled in as they head
That's
around
70
this
feet of main sheet.
bottom mark.
Oh, they
they're
did hit
doing
the
their
mark.
turns. The Argentinian team doing the turns. Looks like they hit the mark.
Yeah, Augie Diaz, reigning world champion, Bruno Prada just rounding the other mark, heading towards the left-hand side again. It is interesting, though. We're seeing quite a few boats rounding this left-hand mark facing downwind when we know that the left-hand side of the course has been favored. So they're probably going to get their speed up, go a little bit, and then tack. But I am surprised at the number of boats. My guess is that that mark is a little bit more upwind. That's why they're choosing to go around it. Also, there's a lot of traffic out there. You just kind of want to pick the mark that you're closest to stay out of the traffic so you don't hit the mark and you don't have to do a penalty turn.
Wall-to-wall boats on Virtual Eye coming towards the gate. This is the end of the first lap, and just look at that picture there, over 70 boats, and really that is your smorgasbord, big fleet, all on one racetrack, all off on one start line, and the rich are really just going to get richer on a racetrack like this. So we're not even halfway in the first race of the Bacardi Cup. Amazing performance already by Mark Mendelblatt and Magnus Liljedahl, heading around the bottom gate in first position. Now they are on their way up to the top mark.
Looks like a balanced split here at the leeward gate as well, so people were willing to go to the right side. Maybe they're not as sold on the go left old man highway, if you will. Could be that they're thinking that they are going to get into cleaner lanes faster, avoiding the downwind fleet. Yeah, you look, Melleby and Josh Revkin have tacked out. They must have had a tight lane on a boat just in front of them, so they're crossing through the middle here. They picked their time to try and avoid as many of the downwind boats as they can, but again, if you had to guess, they probably didn't want to tack there. They would have preferred to go in a straight line. Would have been forced out there to tack through the middle.
Although it also looks like Grail and Samuel Gonsalves, who are also on the left-hand side, they've also chosen to tack. They're just to windward of Melleby right now. And also then Doyle and Felice, a former world champion, also following. So there might be a little something going on more towards the right side of the course, or it could just be a matter of a little bit of consolidation. As you said, there's some openings there in the boats coming downwind that they can get back, consolidate with those other lead boats, and my guess is we'll probably see them tacking back to left-hand side somewhat soon.
Sure, just at that last, before we went to the live shot there on the Virtual Eye, it looked as if Melleby and Revkin have tacked back on the starboard. You look at Doyle, he's checking back in on the starboard, and again, they're off to play the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, we have Jennings and Fridtjof Clean, and they're willing to be a little bit patient and wait for their right shift to come in, and well, maybe they have it. Maybe they have a better idea for what the clouds are doing than what we can tell on the Virtual Eye and from statistics over the last 20 years here in Key Biscayne.
Now you're watching kind of the middle back of the fleet come around the mark right now, and you're going to notice that their boat handling, you can see right here, isn't quite as crisp as the guys who run around in the top 20. The jibs don't quite come in as fast. They're killing their jib right there. It's really bad for the sails. But that's the difference between time in the boat and the pro sailors and the weekend warriors. It's still a great fight back there. Oh, we saw USA 8013, the skipper's fallen in the water just to leeward of the gate there, also not fast. USA 8153 still not being able to get their jib in. Things happen very quickly. In such a big fleet, there's not a lot of room when you come to that gate. So you've got to be on it, and if not, you have things like that happen.
Well, somebody overboard and somebody with their sail down,
Argentina.
heading down towards the finish, and I can see that their mast, I can't see if their mast is broken yet.
No, mast is up. It looks like a broken main halyard. You know, small piece of wire, little fitting, ruins your whole day.
Okay, well I
Bow
think
number 49.
that is our twins actually, Hector Longarella with Hugo Longarella, our cheerful twins from Argentina, so proud to be here waving the Argentinian flag, but unfortunately conditions a little feisty for them, bit of gear damage inevitable, I think, Jeff.
Yes, it is. You know, these are, as we mentioned earlier, it's not quite top end for the Star, but it is choppy and it is breezy, and there's a lot of torque going on at the top of the rig, and you know, one bad wave could let that last little strand of wire give way, and well, that's the end of your day.
Okay, so back to Virtual Eye, we're seeing Vessel and Trinta hammering up the right-hand side of the track, and it was interesting that Rohard and Ponso are taking a real lefty with Grail and Conchalves. So we'll see what is going to pay off. Mendelblatt and Lil Jarl doing a really nice job. We've got them back on our tracker, and that is the blue line, 44, 43 meters ahead of Vesela and Trinta. So at the moment, the right-hand side as they go up the track looking fairly good, but we'll see if that is going to pay off for Rohard and Ponso over on the left-hand side, furthest from our screen, at the top of our screen, with Grail and Conchalves. Interesting mix, Jennings and Clean playing the middle, as are Doyle and Infeliz. Maybe that's the best place to be, Jeff.
Well, it certainly gives you your options. If the breeze goes to the right, you can play that. If the breeze goes to the left, you can play that. What tends to happen is the people who are willing to play aside and put their cards on the table, if you will, tack less and tend to be at the pointy end of the fleet at the end of the beats.
Well, also in a sea state like this with such short chop, tacking is very slow.
Yes.
So you definitely want to minimize your maneuvers in breeze like this and the chop.
Well, there we go. Mendelblatt with Magnus Liljarl, gold medalist from the Sydney Games, I think, Magnus, from Sweden. He is now running the Paralympic program here in the USA, trying to get the Paralympians at the top of the leaderboard in sailing, and doing a marvellous job coming together for this regatta. In fact, I was rather excited because I thought Magnus wasn't going to be competing and we might have him in, but nope, he's out there, couldn't resist it, and I'm rather delighted that you've stepped in, Jeff, to help us out. Former US sailing team, Finn sailor, now coach, and you've crewed and you're coaching the Star, and you're watching this. Is this the first time you've kind of had this kind of view and been in a little studio like this?
It is. It's absolutely the first time. This is a treat. You know, it's hard to fill in for somebody like a Tyler Bjorn or a Magnus.
Dear old Tyler.
Dear old Tyler. I hope he's having a wonderful vacation with his family.
Mexico.
In
Miss
Mexico.
Tyler.
He
Yeah.
is. He is.
Getting some sun.
Yes.
Yeah.
Miami wasn't south enough.
Fair enough.
Not south enough for the Canadians. But there you see, Mendels is working pretty hard. He's not killing himself as if he would be in a laser or a fin, but he's in a little bit of conservation mode. He's got a little bit to play with here, nearly 50 meters, and we call it prairie dogging. He's sitting up. He can see the course very well. He's not redlining his heart rate, so maybe he makes some better tactical decisions.
Mendelblatt's such a class act. He's won the SSL final twice. He really is an amazing sailor. He sails quite often with Brian Fatih. Brian now sailing with somebody else at the moment and doing a marvellous job. But Mendelblatt, a class act. And he's not a full-time sailor. It's not. Oh, no.
No, he
Kathleen.
is a full-time
He
sailor.
is.
He's very much a pro sailor. When
Fair
he's
enough.
not on dinghies, he's on bigger boats. The last 4 years, he was busy training for the Olympics in the NACRA 17 catamaran with his wife, former RSX sailor for Portugal. So Mark's always on one boat or another. He grew up down here in Florida, so he's no stranger to Biscayne Bay. He's no stranger to sailing with Magnus either. Mark also went to Olympics not only in the Star, but in the laser class, and had an excellent event in the laser at the Olympics as well.
Yeah, Mark. If Mark's not in a Star or on a multi-hull, you'll find him sailing maxi boats. I know he just did the Caribbean 600, so he'd just be back from a 600-mile ocean race a few weeks ago, and you'd be hard pressed to find Mark spend a full week not on the water, I think.
Fair enough. So I stand corrected. Mark Mendelblatt, full-time professional sailor. No wonder he's out there in the front, doing a super job. Bow 23, Eric Doyle, Payson Infeliz Doyle. There's a famous name.
Also a former world champion in the star class.
And that yellow star, the gold star, the yellow star at the top, signifying a world champion win up there. I love the way the stars. I've noticed the 470s beginning to do that as well, and a few other classes taking it from the star and using a little bit of tradition in other classes, and why not? It is a really nice tradition. I love it.
And it's an honor. When a sailor wins the Star Worlds, not only do they get a star on their sail, but they also have a special tie that the world champions wear with a gold star on it. It's a community. It's a small community with a lot of famous names.
You'll notice on some of the mainsails, you'll also notice chevrons, which signify, I believe, crew achievements.
Yay, crews. The star boat is a double-handed boat. Any double-handed boat, former Olympic class, the crew is so important. There's only 2 people here. Most people in the world, they're on keel boats where they're on a boat with 3, 4, 5 people, and everyone has their little job to do. But on a double-handed boat like the Star, a very physical, powerful boat, the crew is so important. They're just as important as the skipper. And as we've seen throughout this whole race, often the camera will zone in and you'll see the crews talking to the skippers. And so the crews are also at this level, especially at the top of the fleet, the crews are giving that tactical advice, and the skippers in most cases trust it.
Absolutely. I would imagine on most of these boats, I know at times when I've had my best success in a Star, it's really just conversational between the skipper and the crew. Obviously, we're not talking about what we're going to have for dinner that evening or what happened the night before. It's all about what's happening on the race course. But you're close enough to each other. There's really very little yelling. It's very conversational. Just input what you see on the course and having a discussion on what tactics maybe you're thinking will work in any given situation. Obviously, here we are, middle of the second beat. Boats are a little bit spread out, so now that we're on the second beat, there's less to do with pure boat-to-boat maneuvering, and it's really all about just drawing the last little ounce of speed out that you can, and just trying to coax the most out of your boat through every wave, and trying to inch your way forward through the fleet. You can see on the distance to leaders, Xavier and Ponceau have moved up to be, we'll call it level with Mendelblatt. They don't appear to be in the picture, so there's obviously some leverage between the two. There we are. We've got Rohard off on the left, Mendelblatt and Liljedahl further to the right, looking upwind. There's not much in it. It really will all come down to any small shift in wind direction will change this dramatically. And on a course this large, you get massive amounts of leverage. So truly any small wind shift makes a huge difference in the end result as we get up to the pointy end, to the top mark. When boats consolidate back together as they get towards the top mark, things will compact again and you'll be struggling for lanes again. But right now it's just open water sailing, trying to go as fast as you can, pick up any small subtlety in a wind shift that you can. You can see Mags is looking over his shoulders, not holding his head up. He's clearly been training, and
shielding his face from salt water.
Yeah, I think so.
And
he's getting buckets over him at the moment.
You can see Mark is holding on to the backstay, the running backstay, and small adjustments to that. You can see he just makes an adjustment there. Either add or take away power to the main. So any shift in pressure or sea state, you can see Mark's working that. Not every single moment, but his hand is on it all the time. As if you're on a laser, you'd be adjusting your main sheet. So this is a subtle a star-specific thing where making small adjustments to the overall sail shape of the main with that. And you notice he doesn't have the main sheet in his hand. It's probably sitting in his lap waiting for the next tack, and all of the fine adjustments are done through that backstay.
And you see Magnus hanging over the board there, and he's actually wearing a harness. They're not. It's a kind of straps over their shoulders, and it has a hook in it, and then they hook. Maybe you can explain a little better, having done
it's
it yourself.
It is a vest, and there is a little line that comes off of effectively at your belly button, and it goes in between your legs, and there is a cleat that is. There are 3 cleats in different positions right along the rail, and you can drop the line into the cleat, and that takes the majority of your body weight, so you're not full-time hanging on your knees there. However, if they do happen to tack, we will see Mags will reach up, he'll grab onto the runner at the base and work hard to pull himself up, but it's a massive amount of stress on the knees when you're trying to get a big fella like that up and into the boat.
And then ducking under that very, very low boom.
It is a boat for agile giants.
And one of the biggest mainsails relative to hull length in the whole game. It is really an enormous mainsail, unusual for the Star, designed over 100 years ago. They don't have a spinnaker, so they can move the mast around as they go downwind, and they tend to have a little whisker pole, and we'll see that as they go around the top mark. So it has paid off for Rohart and Ponceau to head off the left gate at the bottom mark rounding and head left up the track. And just behind the leaders in the second row, we're looking at Jack Jennings and Fritjof Kleen. Now, earlier, just before the start of the Bacardi Cup, Jenny Tulloch wandered around and had a little chat with a whole load of sailors, and she had this marvellous little chit-chat with the reigning champ, Bacardi Cup champ, Fritjof Kleen, or Frida as we know him, and Jack Jennings. Let's keep watching the virtual and the live shots as we listen to the sailors themselves.
We are here with reigning Bacardi Cup champion Fritjof Kleen. You're also the only German to have. I have with me now Austin Sperry. You were a 2008 Olympian. We are here with reigning Bacardi Cup champion Fritjof Kleen. You're also the only German to have ever won the event, but now you're sailing with Jack Jennings and not your normal German skipper. Why is that?
Yeah, my normal German skipper had bad planning and planned a baby, and it just got born a week ago. Congratulations to little Albrecht. We're all very proud, and unfortunately that's why he couldn't come, and we cannot defeat the title together. So I'm trying to do it with my friend Jack, and let's see how we end up.
Jack, you think you guys can defend that title?
I think it'll be very tough. There's lots of top sailors here that even weren't here last year, so I think it's going to be very hard, but our goal is to be in the top 10, so I think we can achieve that and then see how it plays out from there.
And you've been here training for about a week, right? Tell us about this.
Yeah, I mean, we arrived on Tuesday, rigged the boat. We have Mark Pickle as a coach here. He also joined a lot of Olympic sailors, went himself to the Olympics in Sydney. And I mean, we had a great week of sailing with Lars Grael and Augie Diaz, the reigning world champion. And I think we're pretty well prepared. We made some sail testing. We're very fast upwind. So I think it's a very good setup for the event.
Jack, what's it like sailing with Frida? I mean, he's got quite the personality. We've had you in the commentary as well. I hope the audience remembers what it's like to hear from you. But what's it like sailing with him?
He's very intense. He's a true strong competitor, and obviously brings a lot of experience from his time going to the Olympics and then winning a world championship. So I think it's pushing the whole program to a higher level, at least pushing my sailing to a better level, I hope.
And are you teaching Jack some tricks in the Star?
Well said, Jack. I mean, there are not so many tricks to learn, right? I mean, I think it's more about the experience in bigger events. And yeah, I think, Jack is sailing himself since 8 years, so he's already a very great sailor. And I think we can see this already in our couple of months of sailing already together. And and then we will see how we end up this event and then the followings.
Jack, you're from the Midwest. I'm sure you're enjoying being down in Miami in March, at least the temperature.
Oh, for sure. Miami is a great place to sail. I think it's one of my favorite places to sail in the wintertime, obviously. And yeah, we're definitely happy to be here.
And you think you can defend, Frida?
Defend, I already said, right? I mean, of course, I always trust in our team skills, and I know that Xavier Roja is here and Alvin Malaby. We did the Europeans last year together. I mean, those are most talented sailors around here. Charlie Buckingham is here. He just went to the Olympics in the laser for the US. And of course, Augie Diaz, the old fox, let's call him. And I mean, he has Bruno Prada, maybe the best crew of all times. And then Magnus Leerdal with Mark Mendelblatt. I mean, a lot of really great names. But I mean, this is normal in the star class, right? I mean, if you have a big star event, you always meet one of the best sailors or the best sailors in the world. And I'm just happy to be here, as always. And of course, it's great that the Star Sailors League is joining this time this incredible 90s edition of the Bacardi Cup. And yeah, and now we just see Lars Grael walking by. I mean, what a legend. So you see, it's just packed with great names.
It is a star-studded lineup. Well, thanks so much, you guys, and best of luck out there racing.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, there was Fritjof Clean, just giving a nice shout out to his usual crew, his crewmate Robert Staniek, who's just had a youngster, a Tiddler, and is staying out in Germany. And there they go, doing a great job here in the top 10, hammering up on the second lap of the Bacardi Cup race number 1, and away they go for a tack. And you can see in our live shot just how choppy it is. A few white caps, it's blowing probably about 16, 17 knots out on the water, and just behind them Lars Grael and Sam Conchalves from Brazil.
Yeah, Jack Jennings has been putting a lot of time on the water this year. He's actually hopped into the Olympic fin class to get some extra time on the water, and he's been sailing with Frida, getting some really high level on the water coaching. Jack came to the class pretty late. He's from Chicago, but has been putting his time in and really making sure he's well accompanied with Frida.
Okay, well, this is probably a good moment to replay the start. Let's have a virtual eye replay of the start line, and we're going to fly up Mark Mendelblatt and Xavier Rohat and just kind of see what kind of start they had. 20 seconds to go, and Rohat was going for a committee boat end, if I can see him there. Yeah, right there, right behind the committee boat. Mendelblatt was way out towards the pin end, and they were in a black flag scenario. Rohat, beautiful position there because he's got a little bit of room to bear away. He's got nobody above him. Pop, out he goes. He may not be in the first rank as we see virtual eye, but he's in clear air and he has his lane, Jeff.
Exactly. He's been able to control his lane for the first 4 or 5 minutes, is not being dictated to by any other boat, not generally forced out, although right there it looks as if Brazil has had a bit of a, there he is forced out, look at that. So he's forced off to the right hand side, and as we were mentioning early up the first beat, Xavier is one of the, Xavier and Pinceau are one of the teams who has enough time in the boat. They know where the speed buttons are, and they're one of those teams that can sail their way back into, through, and up to the front of the pack. And it appears that, you know, we saw him come off the line. We didn't really get to follow him too much up that first beat, but here he is, you know, probably in about 15th or 20th here in the fleet. But if we were to go to live, he's in the top bit.
So this is the replay as we were just replaying this first leg. Mendelblatt and Liljal. So they took a pin end to start and managed to poke their way ahead. And as we were talking about, the left-hand side of this track has been paying off rather well. Funny enough, Rohat and Pinceau on the second upwind beat went boom, left. That's what they did, and that's seen them pop out the front on the second lap. So Mendelblatt and Liljard, they took the pin end, and now we are back to the live shot with Mark Mendelblatt and Magnus Liljard just being crossed by Rohat and Pinceau. So we've been chatting about these guys, seeing their different style of start. Actually not the best start by Xavier Rohart. I thought he had a better start than that, but he got crossed a few times. He had to tack out of trouble. He put 2 extra tacks in there, which would have slowed him down, but he managed to fight into clean air, which is rather interesting. I would say the start was won by Mendelblatt and Liljedahl out towards the pin end. But it's a long race. We have 5 legs. It's a 2-lap course. They go upwind, downwind, and then they have a final upwind to finish at the top mark. And these legs are absolutely enormous, 2 nautical miles. And as you said, Jeff, earlier, that is 6 miles of hiking.
Yeah.
What Xavier and Pierre Alexis are doing right now.
And Xavier is one of the bigger star skippers out here. And it's not just enough in this class to be big, but you also have to be big and fit. And he is a combination of big, strong, and fit with experience. And Pierre Alexis is very tall. He's lean, though. He's not the... When you look at him compared to, say, a Bruno Prada and Arnie Baltons or a Phil Trinter, he's not as big, but he has the technique, and he's accompanied by that rather large skipper behind him.
They both are Olympic class coaches, actually. They work for the French Federation, the National Sailing School out in Quiberon, in Brittany on the west coast of France, and they're great sailors and coaches, and we're going to ask Xavier to come in and do some coaching analysis with us after this race, and he's going to like that because he's doing rather well in this particular race. Just coming up towards the top mark again, and they're into some clean breeze, tacking around the top mark. It is the Frenchman Rohart and Ponceau with a good 60-meter lead over second placeman Mendelblatt and Liljedahl as they go around that little spreader mark. Some spectators and a little bit of traffic up at that top mark. I wonder if we will be able to get hold of Jenny Tulloch. If you're in within comms range, we'll just pass over to you very quickly, Jenny, if you could.
Yeah, Digby, I can hear you. Not that easily, but I can hear you guys. And as you said, Xavier with an excellent second upwind, taking over the lead from Mendelblatt, who is just about to round this mark as we speak, tacking and rounding Mendelblatt and Magnus Liljedahl. And then behind them, spread out just a bit, 10 boat lengths. And then, of course, this fight for third is on. It is 3 boats, as I can see, lined up almost perfectly in a horse race for this top mark. And the outermost of those 3 is 84.23. Gold Star at the top. The inner is Norwegian, just getting pushed out the back. We call that piggy in the middle in team racing. And then inside of that, USA 8522. I can't see the bow number of the inner boat, but I think it's going to be 84.23 around the top of all 3.
So
just
Eric Doyle,
that,
Payson, Infelice. Sorry to interrupt. Jenny, on the right-hand side, Doyle, Infelice.
And just rounding your head, Jack Jennings.
Okay, we'll come back to studio. Thank you, Jenny. Jenny's on our camera boat and she's chatting away to the driver and positioning our boat. And I'm just seeing Seb from SSL is coming in saying, what have we got? No, you can just talk to us. George Szabo. He's got 2 minutes. I wonder, Jeff, if we could possibly just swap out very quickly. George, we're watching the top mark, second top mark rounding. The Frenchman running away with this just in a very nice way. What happened to you?
We got off the start line and the tube that holds the forestay in the bow pulled out, and it happened about 2 years ago. We repaired it and thought it was okay, and pulled out today. It's not really something to check and can look at.
Oh, commiserations. That's not how you want your first day to go.
Yeah.
So fixable, and you'll be out in the water tomorrow?
Yeah, we got to go get a grinding tool and some epoxy and a fiberglass cloth, and it should be about 2 to 3 hours and be back in business hopefully.
Okay, fair enough. And conditions out there, just give us a little feel. You've got still the salt in your hair and everything, the feeling of being racing out there. How is it?
It was fantastic. Just the wind was coming up and it was just nice, and it got sunny. It was just absolutely gorgeous. Biscayne Bay conditions just phenomenal.
Okay, rock and roll. Well, commiserations. I know if they get 4 races in the bag, you can discard 1. So that is your discard. You've already played your joker. But we wish you the best of luck for the next few races.
Thanks. Yeah, there's been a few regattas where we start out with a bad result in the first race and won the regatta, so we're hoping.
There's only one way to go now.
Yeah.
And it's up. Okay. Thank you very much, George Szabo, one of our SSL stalwarts, former world champ, and we thank you for popping in and joining us.
Thanks, Rob, for the hardware store.
Cheers, mate. Okay, B&Q, here we go. Or what do you call B&Q here? Home Depot. Okay, Jeff's joining us back in commentary. So it was all going on around at that top mark, and we saw the Frenchman in great position with Mendelblatt and Liljar hitting around in second. I think Doyle Infelice in a great spot. Melleby and Revkin now into third position. The Norwegian Eivind Melleby with the American Josh Revkin beginning to make their mark.
Well, we've also lost Mark Mendelblatt from the tracker, so we know he's up there in front.
Grail Conchalves from Brazil, they're in the mix. Zanetti from Argentina with Mark Struby and Augie Diaz, Bruno Prada Diaz from here, Miami, and Bruno Prada, probably the best star crew, best ranked star crew at the moment. He's won the SSL final with Robert Scheidt in 2013. And then the good Dr. Hubert Merkelbach from Germany. He's sailing with Italian crewman Sergio Lambertenghi.
Who actually is #1 right now.
And Sergio Lambertenghi, the big Italian crewman, ranked #1 on the Star Sailors
He
League.
got his pinny with his #1, and I saw his face when he finally got to wear that. Very, very proud.
Now we're with the middle of the fleet as they churn their way around the top mark and the spreader mark. Hard work for some of these guys. They've still got quite a way to go. They've got 2 more legs. They're going to go downwind and then another upwind to finish. So a long way to go. Another lap effectively for these guys around the top.
A very interesting hand signal from the Danish team there. Was not a happy hand signal. The Worlds this summer for the Star class will be in Denmark, so we've got a couple Danish teams showing their colors here, spreading the word about the Worlds this summer.
Looks like we have a bit of a pack here, all attempting to get around the mark and not being
going on?
quite successful.
Oh, bow 19.
Is that somebody trying to do a penalty turn?
Ooh, that's Shane and Ed from Annapolis, Maryland.
Well, they may have got stuck on the mark, these guys. They are in trouble, and they're causing trouble all around them at the moment. Drama, Jeff, drama at this top mark.
Well, they're certainly getting to know a lot of people here, aren't they? I bet there's a bit of a conversation as people pass them by. Shane and from Annapolis, not an area tragically known for its big breeze, so this might be pushing the limit a little bit for
It looks
Shane.
like they're trying to get their sail downer up. That could be a problem that they had
coming down.
mechanically at that mark.
Jenny Tulloch out on the camera boat. Jenny, anything from you?
You know, you're seeing bow 19 taking their sail down. Shane
No.
Engelberg and
Okay. Sorry, Jen. Can't get you. No dramas at all. Oh, what's going on? Oh, it's all terrible. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear.
That's hands up saying, please don't hit me.
Cool. He's dead in the water, effectively. Jenny, it's pretty dramatic scenes out here.
Yeah, you know, we're seeing bow 19. It's Shane Zwingelberg and Ed Morg. They just took their mainsail down. I'm not sure what happened. They were not the boat that was called over. We know there was a boat, I think it was bow 84.
That
Larry
looks like
Whipple
a broken tiller from what we can see.
Oh no, so Jeff's saying the tiller's broken, but that's not a reason to... Okay, maybe it's the actual tiller, not the tiller extension, in which case it would be a reason to have to go in. So they'll still be able to get in, but yeah, you wouldn't be able to race the rest of the race. Oh, that's unfortunate, you guys.
Well, we're seeing a few boats come in. We just had George Szabo in the studio. They had some damage. They're off to Home Depot, and these guys, we had a rig down yesterday, so quite dramatic. Quite a lot of breeze out there. The forecast is for the breeze to drop a little bit tomorrow, so we suspect that Carl Schellbach, the race officer, is going to run 2 races, and then that means we will have the first race commencing at 11. If you look on the starsailors.com and the Bacardi Cup Miami Sailing Week websites, they will tell you what is the score and when they are going to start on the website, so you will know by looking at the website later on.
So we know we're missing a few boats in here. There's the gap of 200 meters is probably not real. Mendelblatt is in there somewhere, not showing up on the virtual eye, but we know that having watched him sail downwind on the last downwind leg, he was showing quite a bit of speed. So I'm going to guess he's right on the tail of Rohart there somewhere, and pushing pretty hard to close that gap and have a fighting chance up this final beat after they round the leeward marks.
Now it's kind of interesting because, as you were saying earlier, Kathleen, Xavier Rohart, one of the heavier guys, and they are good in strong winds. We know the Frenchmen like the strong winds, and they were this morning looking out and saying, you know, feeling confident.
Smiling.
This is smiling, feeling this is our day. But as the breeze drops off during the shape of the championship over the next 4 days, it may pay into some of the lighter wind specialists. For example, George Szabo and Augie Diaz.
For sure. George is definitely a light wind specialist sailing out of San Diego. Augie can go well in almost any condition. He might not have the same endurance as Xavier. He can't move the boat around as much, and his crew, Bruno Prada, these days has been training for triathlons with his wife, so he's not at his fighting weight that he used to be when he sailed with Augie and Robert Scheidt. So definitely they're not going to have the jets upwind, but that team is known for very good speed downwind. I don't think Augie's as physical as Mark Mandelblatt in the boat, but we saw Xavier and Pierre Alexei in Nassau in very, very light wind, just rocketing downwind, and they had a very different style. We saw Alexei was usually quite upright on the mast downwind. We saw him in the last downwind today here in Miami, more in the boat, but those guys have great speed no matter where they are.
Well, as our camera boat works its way down through the fleet, we're looking at some of the back markers. Bow 79, Argentinian team, Fabian McGowan, Ariel Simonet, there they go, red cap there in that leading that little clump, and our TV boat is going to work its way down through the fleet, and we can chat about some of these guys as they go. Adam, our camera operator, doing such an amazing job. He's flying now at total speed, operating his camera on the hoof and on the move as we look at Torre and Scaparti.
And unfortunately, they do not have the trackers on the boat, so if you're watching them here today, this is your chance. Bow 12 from Argentina, having a good battle with the Canadians just behind them.
Cullen and Martin, bow 47.
You notice the subtlety. There's a little sharper movements in the upper body on the Argentinian boat. It's the rock is not quite as pronounced. It's not a rhythmic style going downwind. It's a little bit more staccato, and probably not as slippery through the waves as the lead pack. So again, if you remember the last downwind leg when we had that beautiful shot of the two boats, the different styles, if you can remember that and bring that back to the style that we're looking at now, boats seem to be a little bit more static. There's just not as much kinetic energy being thrown around out there.
Well, these guys are going to watch the replay on live stream and YouTube, and hopefully learn a little bit from the top runners and riders of technique and crewing. It's one of the wonders of having all this SSL equipment here, the virtual eye, and our wonderful camera on the water. Our TV boat with Adam and Jenny is speeding down towards the bottom gate, which is why our shot seems to be going a million miles an hour. Adam doing an amazing job hanging on, I have to say. That is not an easy thing to do because he's on a little joystick down below and trying to keep a steady shot as his platform itself is moving at 30 knots or so. So we're making our way with our live shot going down towards the bottom mark, and we're just looking at who's that? Swigart and Fatih, Brian Fatih there, crewman on the front of bow 35. Brian Fatih, he's won this event. I think he's crewed
with Mark Mandelblatt.
With Mark Mandelblatt, and he has his name on that trophy. So he's an experienced hand, and we've got to know Brian over the first few Star Sailors League. And in fact, we had a little chat with Brian before the event, and I asked Brian a few questions about how the week was going to shape up. And it'd be rather nice to hear from one of the crew for a change, one of the expert crew who knows Star Sailing so well. Now, Brian, you've won this event in the past with Mark Mendelblatt. When was that?
2013, I think.
Give us an indication of what it takes to win the Bacardi Cup from a crew's perspective.
Well, I guess a lot of dedication and just being the right place at the right time. You know, good starts and nailing all the shifts and all that stuff. Yeah.
Talk about the landscape here, the shifts, the bay, Biscayne Bay. What distinguishes it from other venues?
Well, it's a tricky place to sail. It's not really straightforward. And George Zabel made a comment before, back when the boat was Olympic. These top sailors were here, and no guy would win the same regatta. You know, there'd be a whole winter series here, 5-6 regatta, and no guy would win all the regattas. You know, it'd be one guy would win, and then he wouldn't win next time. And so it's just that kind of a challenging place. You know, there's a lot of shifts. Nothing's really, it's not an easy place to figure out.
You talk about shifts, and here we're watching in our little virtual environment, and we have a camera, and we might be watching at work or at home, and you know, we can't see or feel these shifts. Why is it shifty?
It's a good point. You know, it's surrounded by land, and you know, it's a bay. Why is it shifty? I don't know why the wind shifts, but it does, and just got to be able to anticipate and try and figure out a pattern, understanding, because once it shifts, you're either winning or losing. So you want to be on the winning side of that shift.
Before you go out racing, when you're schmilling around in the pre-start and you're analysing, you're doing a little test runs, test beats up the track a little bit. When do you make the decision whether to start on the left of the line or the middle of the line or the right of the line, and to kind of generically go left or right?
You know, that's a hard call because when you're looking at the big picture wind forecast, and that can always be delayed or it can come in early. So you want to see what kind of wind you have out there on the bay. So you're kind of analyzing that, and you're checking your sail, making sure you're going well against other people. And then you're also reading the wind shifts on the compass, and you're just trying to get an understanding. And then you either roll the dice, or you try to make an educated guess, and you go for it like that.
Brian, we've seen you race on many of the Star Sailors League, and kind of this is what you do. You're, if I may say, a professional crew, and you sail with all kinds of characters. And I know you said you won this event with Mark Mendelblatt. Who are you sailing with this week?
This week I'm sailing with a great guy named Will Swigart, American guy who lives in Hong Kong, and he's just a really good friend of mine, and I enjoy sailing with him. So.
And before we leave, how is life with Brian Fati in general?
Life's good in Miami. It's not bad. Everybody should be down here racing starboats. So.
Very good. Good luck for the event. Cheers, Brian.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, there was Brian Fati, and here he is now, standing by the mast with his new skipper and enjoying life in Miami. They're not having the best result at the moment. They're sort of mid to lower pack, but right at the front towards the gate is Xavier Rohard and Pierre-Alexis Ponceau, Les Français. They have their name on that trophy already, and here they are, coming out, all guns firing on race number 1 of the Bacardi Cup.
And we know that Mark Mendelblatt and Magnus Lidjedal are lurking somewhere around them. We don't know how close they are. Up there we can see them right there.
So that is the gate as they jibe, set around almost simultaneously. This is going to be a great upwind battle between these two. The Frenchman just having it over Mendelblatt and Lidjedal. There's Xavier Rohard on the helm, pulling in the main sheet, adjusting his mast rake. They're getting ready for an upwind leg, and they come towards the bottom gate. Pierre-Alexis with the white hat, the crewman, and just we'll stay with these guys and just see how much of this mainsail these guys haul in as they jibe and head around the bottom gate. So very nice crew work between the two Frenchmen. They are going for the left-hand side of the track as they go upwind to the finish. And just look at that main sheet from Rohard at the back. He's hauling, he's pulling, he's pulling, he's steering with his feet, and in it comes. Very tidy job, Jeff.
In the background, we also heard a horn, could signal a change of course. And yeah, as you can see, the top boats as they come around really looks as if there's no stress on board. Sails come in, rig gets into its position, and they're straight into their upwind speed mode. It doesn't take them long to make that transition from as fast as they can go downwind to as fast as they can go upwind, and that makes all the difference in the world.
Eric Doyle with Payson. Infelice in third position, so lovely sailing by these guys. They've had a really good downwind leg as they approach the gate, and it looks like they want the left-hand side going upwind as well.
Looks as if the sun is starting to peek out as well. Can't see it as the clouds over Miami, but you can see the sun shining on the sails. Makes for actually a really good picture. And you know, it's interesting to see as the sun breaks, does that left side come in even more? It looks as if Mark Mendelblatt and Magnus Lilledal are choosing the right. Could be a better escape to get away from the crowds of boats as they come downwind.
Yeah, to escape the traffic, get out of the bad airflow from the boats coming downwind, and there are a lot of boats, over 70 boats on the racetrack. 2 or 3 have come in already, we know that, through gear damage. But
Peter Vistella, bow 52 there, about to go around the mark. And Lars Grael with Samuel Consalves going around to the right-hand side of the course.
Nice first race for Lars, two-time winner of this event, and that's a handy fleet racing position to be in that sort of top 10, really.
As much as George mentioned that he has had a history of having a troubling first race and come back to win large events, I think you'd prefer to be where Lars Grael is right now. Putting up a keeper, first race.
Yep, keeper. It's all about consistency. It's not about bullets. It's fleet racing. We're going to have 6 races. They'll be able to discard their worst result after 4 races. So George Szabo, his worst result, he's already played his joker. So the pressure is going to be on him. And these guys we're seeing heading upwind, these are all keeper results, as you say, Jeff.
Absolutely. You see Xavier is on port tack covering Mark Mendelblatt and Magnus Lilledal. Really just keeping the balance, not letting them get too much leverage. He had a small advantage, and he's going to try and maintain that small advantage. No reason to put a lot of risk into it and separate from one side of the course to the other. As we heard, I think we heard, and Jenny may be able to chime in on this, we did hear horns down at the bottom, which generally signifies some form of a change of course. So if we could get that information, that would help us to know, yes, we can see the race committee boat there. The Charlie flag is up. Somebody was holding a whiteboard up. That it could be a change of direction. It could just be a minus where they shorten that course. They think that they've hit the time. They know what their time limit or what their hopeful time is going to be, and they'd be shortening the course for that.
Well, Jeff, let's just quickly jump over to Jenny. Can you tell us, Jen?
I think you guys that's a C flag, which is just a change of course flag, not a shortened course. Maybe I'm wrong. I couldn't quite hear you there, Jeff, but I think just the 3 vertical lines sideways like that means that change of course, which I think would probably just be a pivot of the top mark, perhaps a little bit to the right as the afternoon sea breeze has come up a bit more. I cannot see the number that they're holding up. We know that it was 117 when they started the race, and we are just so side to that buoy, that their marker, that we're struggling to see what the number says. Can you guys read the number on their board?
Yes, Jen, we've had it from the race committee 120, so as you say, it's kind of moved right a little bit as they look up the track. And in fact, I in the sailing instructions, they have said that in the sailing instructions that they're not going to shorten the course. So
I believe they could shorten the distance. They can't shorten the number of legs.
Got it. Okay.
But as you said, race committee has confirmed that it is a right shift, and so you see Mendelblatt and Lilledal, Rohart and Ponceau heading off to the right. So Mendelblatt goes to the right in a right shift. The amount of time spent on port is accentuated if the breeze hasn't shifted yet they've moved the mark, or if the breeze goes back to the left at all. Now we see it appears as though Xavier has tacked and is heading back towards the left, and maybe giving a little bit of that leverage back to Mendelblatt, willing to concede a little bit of leverage if he thinks he's picked up a right shift sufficient to tack away.
Interesting, because this is real tactical stuff now. Rojar Ponso in the lead, with not a huge lead over the Americans. Mendelblatt there with the Swede Liljal. They were in that controlling spot, and now, as you say, they've tacked back. They've got to play their own game a little bit and play their own wind. We'll just see what Mendelblatt and Liljal do if they just continue, which is rather interesting. So now we call this separation between Rojar Ponso, Mendelblatt and Liljal. And Mendelblatt and Liljal going for that separation, but Rojar Ponso, they know that the left has paid rather well on their second lap. They came out of that pretty well. Now Mendelblatt and Liljal covering. So I would still say, Jeff, it is the Frenchman in that controlling spot.
Yes, it looks as if Mark and Mags got a little bit of separation to the right, perhaps picked up a little bit of a right shift and tack. The virtual eye is not probably showing reality right here, as Mendels has stopped, but you've got just a little bit of extra leverage. Where towards the late stages of this race, there's big separation behind Mark, and so he's willing to give just a little bit extra risk to try and pass Xavier, and balancing that risk against whoever is in third and fourth. Would you be willing to concede a little bit of loss to those boats for the possibility of passing and getting into first? And apparently Mark was willing to give up just about that much risk and then come back. And we'll see how this plays out. If we get any right shift, Mark will look pretty good. Mark and Mags would be looking through the window, gauging where Xavier and Ponceau are through their jib window on their lee bow, picking up any subtlety on the compass. Xavier not looking over his shoulder, hammering down to the left side, just trying to go fast, pretty confident in what he thinks is going to happen up the last bit of this beat.
Okay, we noticed climbing into the top 10, young Charlie Buckingham, the U.S. represented in the laser class in the Olympics in Rio this year, sailing with former Olympian in the star class, Austin Sperry. They're a very young team. This is Charlie's, I think, only second or third regatta. Also, yes, Jeff, one of your picks to be in the top today. They started at the boat today, didn't have a great first upwind leg, but I think their last downwind might have been spectacular. Probably Charlie using some of his laser downwind ability to climb into the ranks, and we now see them, it looks like, in about 7th, 8th place. That's some excellent sailing for a relatively new star sailor with a seasoned crew. And Charlie's dad is also out there, Buckingham and Moss. They're in about 17th place right now, so we have a father and son, but it's really great to see this young team up there against all these veterans, really sailing well.
One of the beauties of the star class is it really has attracted the top level sailors from other classes. You see former top level fin sailors, former top level laser sailors, Mendelblatt being one of them. Xavier is a former top level fin sailor. They've been sailing boats against each other and in this level of competition for over 20 years, and the fact that all of those other classes feed to the star class, and really this is just the top level of all one design racing, tends to find itself to the star class. Top level dinghy sailors aspire to be top level star sailors.
And in the SSL, the Star Sailors League, at their final, they've added a real twist to that whole equation by inviting some VIPs from other disciplines. For example, match racing. We've had the Ian Williams, World Match Racing champ. He's been out to the Star Sailors League final and doing rather well. And we've had 470 Olympic silver medalists like Luke Patience. He's been out, and they've invited Jochen Schumann and some of the great and the good and the round the world winners. and that's been rather interesting. But right here, this is the Bacardi Cup. It's not a Star Sailors League event. We're here on invitation, and we're trying to explain what's going on these huge, great courses, and really great stuff from the top 3-4 boats. Melby and Revkin in there, and they have been tipped as real top runners and riders. Eivind Melby, the Norwegian, and I keep describing him as a fiery character, but he's an amazing helmsman, and he has kind of real drive to get out there in front.
He is one of the smaller helmsmen out there. If you see him standing next to Xavier Rohart, Mark Mendelblatt, he doesn't look like a very big man, but he hikes hard. If you watch him, he takes every little kilo that he has, and it is out there, and he is working to make the boat go fast.
Well, here's Jennings, I think, and Fritjof Kleen just wiping off something underneath on their keel with their weed stick. Frida, the crew on the front, he's tucked his little stick away, that weed stick, as you were telling us earlier, Kathleen. And Fritjof Kleen, big guy, big German, putting his weight out there, his head and his arms. He's using all the leverage that he possibly can to power that heavy boat with its huge mainsail upwind. And right now they are in 5th position, and let's see if they can take any more scalps on this final upwind leg. Melby and Revkin in their sight, as are Doyle and Infeliz, as are Mendelblatt and Lil Jarl, and as are Rohart and Ponceau.
Looking at the distance to leader, you can see the breeze must have taken a small right shift. Mendelblatt and Lilledal have closed the gap to 2 meters.
Could see a lead change any minute now between the front two, Rohart, Ponceau, Mendelblatt, Lil Jarl. We'll see that on virtual. Right now we're looking at the live shot of the 5th placed Jennings and Kleen. So Virtual Eye giving us the view towards the finish of the race number 1 of the Bacardi Cup. We're going to have 6 of these epic battles for the Bacardi Cup over the next 4 or 5 days. Mendelblatt, Lil Jarl coming in from the right to engage with Rohart and Ponceau on the left hand side. And as we look, are we going to see a lead change in front of our very eyes? Boom, there it goes. Mendelblatt, Lil Jarl back in the lead where they rightfully belong in their own view. And what a great finale to this first race.
I think we're going to see these guys continuing on the stack for quite a while. And you've got Xavier and Pierre-Alexis out there on the left just a little bit, but when they tack back towards the windward mark, the Frenchmen are going to be hoping just for that little left shift that's kind of been coming up there, the old man's highway. But it's a game of patience.
This is the drag race here between the top two. They are pretty much neck and neck, and we have them both in one frame. Bow 22nd, Mendelblatt and Lil Jarl with Rohart and Ponceau. Rohart and Ponceau tacking over to engage. Starboard tack, bow 27 with the right of way. Can the Frenchmen tack ahead? Are they going to have to do a big duck? We will see on the live shot how this one is going to work out as this naval battle commences and this engagement comes into play. Frenchmen on port, the American-Swedish duo on starboard. Frenchmen with 6 meters. Can they pass ahead? Can they cross ahead? That's the question we're asking ourselves now, Jeff.
Well, I looked at CNN this morning. As far as I know, the French and the Americans are still allies, but nothing's safe in this world, I guess. We'll see how this goes between the two of them. I know there's a lot of respect for each other between these two boats. Not an inch is going to be given. And as you said, as we get up to the top end of this beat, there will be scalps to be had, and there will be intense combat between these two. Gentlemanly combat, but combat nonetheless.
Well, it's a good battle, and the advantage going back to the Frenchmen, Rohart and Ponceau to the right of screen, bow 37, a big French flag on their sail there, and it looks like they're going to have enough distance to be able to cross ahead of Mendelblatt and Leelchal, who are on this starboard tack, this right-of-way tack, port tack that the Frenchman on, the give-way tack, but it's the Frenchmen just clawing ahead, and they will, as we see from our shot, be able to cross ahead and retain that first position.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting when the French tacked over onto port tack, lost the right of way. At the moment they did it, on our screen, they were actually not in the lead. They were behind Mendelblatt and Lidjedal. But that's just how good sailors are at judging time and distance. I mean, they make great auto drivers, but he knew before we knew, even with the GPS tracking, that he was ahead, and then he just gained after that.
Well, we feel from Virtual Eye telling us that there was a very slight left shift that gave the Frenchman a little bit of advantage there. So perhaps a bit of luck, perhaps a bit of skill. Who knows? Because the Frenchmen were determined to go across earlier on this leg and gain separation and lose themselves again. So maybe they saw that happening as they were coming up.
As we talked about a little bit earlier, the breeze is never static. It shifts back and forth. And we saw the first half of that beat, Mendelblatt was willing to take just a little bit more right leverage than Ponceau and Rohart. And Rohart, as they went towards the left, lost the advantage as the breeze shifted just slightly to the right. It brought Mendelblatt and Lilledal back into, at worst, a bow even position. Xavier and Ponceau were willing to sail along on starboard, be patient, wait for their left shift, and even though the Virtual Eye was perhaps a lagging indicator, they caught their left shift, were able to tack and get across, and now Mendelblatt has decided to keep it close and hip up on them, if you will, and follow them back towards the right, perhaps conceding that it was a left shift, and Xavier picked it up a little bit faster than Mendelblatt.
Beautifully done, beautifully done. Well, Melleby, the Norwegian, with Revkin, they are up into third or fourth at the moment. Managed to take a scalp. I think they've taken Doyle and Infeliz on this upwind leg. So great sailing by this duo, and they could well come out at the end of this week on that podium, if not on the top. Who knows?
They were one of my votes. Now, it was interesting that you could see there they're on port tack. The majority of the fleet was on starboard tack, and this boat chose to tack over and actually is on the same tack as the leaders heading towards the right side of the course. But looking at the rest of the fleet, it actually looked like there was a slight right-hand shift. But we see here the leaders now on port tack.
Well, there was Melleby and Revkin, so they are coming into the track from the left-hand side. They have Doyle and Infeliz in their sights, and Jennings and Clean in that little row there. Grail and Conchalves, bottom of our screen, heading to the right-hand side, consistently in that top 10. They're going to be happy with this result. Vesela and Trinta, Merkelbach and Lambertenghi, Buckingham and Sperry. With our Argentinian, had that super start, great first leg, falling back a little bit, but Zanetti and Struby just hanging into a top 10 position. Diaz, the American from Miami, with Prada from Brazil in that mix as well. So we're approaching the finish line. We're in the final stages of the first race of the Bacardi Cup, and here really a masterful performance by the Frenchman Xavier Rohart, Pierre-Alexis Ponceau. These two won the first ever SSL Grand Slam in the city, in the middle of Hamburg last year. It was rather interesting to see them. They took on Torben Grail, in fact, in the semi-final, and managed to force a penalty on Torben. He was absolutely furious about the whole thing. So we know that the Frenchmen can be aggressive when they need to be, as wonderful as they are and gentlemanly as they are on land and over a cup of coffee out here. I'm afraid it's no holds barred.
You can see how tight these two boats are. It's just a drag race. Who's going to hike harder? Who's going to just get that last little ounce of speed out of the boat? It's actually wonderful testing. Who has the better sail shapes right here? Who's tweaked their rig just quite right? And, it's interesting. The boats stay close together like this. Not much leverage. Wind shifts really don't affect this when the boats are this close as they do when they have more leverage. So this is really just a bit of a macho contest as they hike their hardest and try to drag the boat up this last quarter of the final beat to really sort of have bragging rights. You can't win the regatta today, but it sure feels nice if you can put up a keeper, and obviously if you can win, you have a little smirk on your face when you get to the dock and say congratulations to your mate that got second.
Part of the psychological warfare of sailboat racing, and honestly, my daughter's been racing toppers for the past couple of years, and we see it right on from the juniors right up to the very top. There's a kind of good psychological boat part warfare going on, and that's all part of the good game that we call sailing, and it's part of all sport, of course. But as you say, these guys doing a great job. Bit more weed stick, quite a lot of debris, weeds in the water. We can jump out if we can and join Jenny Tulloch. Jenny, a great Olympic class sailor, America's Cup commentator, worked throughout the whole of the previous Volvo Ocean race, giving us these great updates, and we're very lucky to have Jenny with us as part of the SSL team. Jenny, great performance by the Frenchman, Mendelblatt, Liljal, Dole Infeliz, Melody Revkin, but a few meters to go towards the finish. Over to you, Jenny.
Yeah, quite a couple meters to go towards the finish, Digby. And I think what you forget is the match racing background that I have, which is pretty much what we're seeing right now between these top two boats. I mean, of course, there are 72 other boats behind them, so they can't absolutely play this like a match race. But very much, we might see a match race, and we are, because what we just saw was Mendelblatt tack, and within half a second, Rohart Ponceau tack behind, and Mendelblatt just tack back. So I'm not even kidding. It is a match race as we talk. So what I would call that is a dummy tack with Mendelblatt, and Xavier went with him and fell for it. Tacked with him. Mendelblatt came back. Now we have Xavier tacking on him. So we have a complete and total match racing tacking duel at the top of the course here. This is incredible, Digby.
Good stuff at the sharp end of this first race of the Bacardi Cup, and the Frenchman going again, another tack, and let's see what the Americans respond with. Boom, away they go. It's like watching the America's Cup, Kathleen. Here the top two boats in their own little battle. They're over 100 meters ahead of third place Melody Revkin, but Xavier and Ponceau taking it to Mendelblatt and Liljal, and Mendelblatt and Liljal doing everything they humanly can to unnerve the Frenchman at the front.
Well, Mark is well accompanied with Magnus, but the difference, you can look at Magnus's grimacing face right there. Xavier knows that if they go into a tacking duel in these conditions, he has Pierre Alexei with him. And even though Magnus has a wonderful history in the class, the strength, agility, and endurance that it takes to go in a tacking duel, the Frenchmen are probably going to come out on top.
Magnus is certainly feeling a little older than in his 20s right now. Probably huffing and puffing a little bit. Heart rate gets up. Here we go. Boom. You can see him blow a little bit of a whew.
And just at the speed, he doesn't quite get out and over the rail as fast as Pierre Alexei.
None of us are getting any younger.
Well, they're in second spot of the Bacardi Cup.
Yeah.
Mendelblatt has his name on that trophy. They've done an amazing job, really, after a super pin-end start to be in that second spot going up towards the finish. Very great stuff, good match racing tactics going on there, but the Frenchman managing to control Mendelblatt and Liljal. Liljal, crewman, former gold medalist in the Star from, I think it was the Sydney Olympics, and here he is out here sailing with Mark Mendelblatt, and they are approaching the finish line in just a few minutes. Mark Mendelblatt, look, he's just adjusting his backstay, getting into a little groove there, and I think they're going to settle in now, and probably a few less tacks towards that finish.
I think the advantage that somebody like Magnus brings to this is he's seen this game, he's played this game, he knows every trick in the book, and if there is an opportunity for them to capitalize, he will see it before almost anybody else. They're all champion sailors out there. Some of them have just done it a little bit longer.
Champion sailors and coaches, and we have asked Xavier Rohart to come in after each race, each day, to give us a bit of an analysis. We'll get into real analytical mode, and we'll play that tomorrow, so that's to look forward to. And of course he's going to be rather happy to analyse the race that he's won, but rather good because he's a French Olympic coach. He coaches their 49er Olympic team, and now he was telling me that he's coaching the Olympic NACRA team as well. And of course Pierre Alexis, another coach, he's coaching the M32 teams as well. So those two class act, some of the best sailors in France right now, and they have hit the deck running, and they responded rather beautifully to that little attack, I thought, by Mendelblatt and Lil Jarl, just trying to unnerve them, just trying to force an area. Pure America's Cup tactics. If you're behind, you just want to out-psych, out-maneuver, try and out-tack your opposition in front, but very, very hard to come from that position with just a few meters to go. Grail and Conchalves, they're in the mix there. Look at them in 6th position. Jennings and Clean, Doyle, Infeliz and Melby and Revkin have held on to that 3rd spot. So real fighting performance by the Norwegian and American crew, as we see possibly the final attack from Rohart and Ponceau towards the finish line. Mendelblatt and Lildhall in the picture, just coming in towards 2nd place.
And you can see that the water up here is a little bit flatter. Looks like the wind is just a little bit down from what we were seeing previously.
Well, there it is. Race number 1. Victory to les Français. Xavier Rohart, Pierre Alexis Ponceau. Brilliant race, brilliant performance by the Frenchman. And we're getting a bit of audio from our TV boat. Good crowds up at that top mark at the finish, as it's Mark Mendelblatt and Magnus Liljard. Good tap on the back by Mark to Magnus. Sterling effort there, and they were in the lead at one stage, and they finish in 2nd place. An absolute keeper. They'll be super delighted with that performance, as will Eivind Melleby from Norway, helming with Josh Revkin, the young sailor here. He's an academic, he's a double first in physics and philosophy. A real clever brain there at the front end of that boat there, with Eivind Melleby from Norway, and just coming behind them,
Eric Doyle of the United States, former world champion, sailing with Infeliz.
Eric Doyle, former world champ, gold star, 4th position, and he had a couple of really good downwind legs on this race there, and that's another keeper. They will be happy. In truth, anyone in this top 10 bunch are going to be pleased with their performance today. And coming through the line in 5th, Jack Jennings with Fritjof Clean. Fritjof, reigning champ of the Bacardi Cup, now sailing with Jack Jennings from the USA, and that's a great race for them. And just behind them is Lars Grail with Sam Conchalves from Brazil. So we've got a few Brazilian sailors here. Lars Grail, 2-time winner with Sam of the Bacardi Cup. They have their name twice on that trophy. Lovely tack, as you say, Kathleen, through the finish line as they gun their way back towards the Coral Reef Yacht Club. And then
Peter Vasella and Phil Trinter coming in, putting up a solid keeper in the first race.
And Phil won this event crewing in 2010.
They also had the lead earlier, didn't they?
They did. They've been in the top end the whole time. And so to put up a keeper, they shifted back a little bit, but then were able to fight their way back up.
Dr. Hubert Mirkelbach, sailing with the Italian Sergio Lambertini, #1 ranked crew in the Star Sailors League. A great race for them. Definitely a keeper. They're going to be very happy.
Zanetti and Struby coming in.
And this is after the Argentinians did a circle, if you remember, at one of the gates. So this is an excellent finish.
Good recovery.
And
from
that looked like
Zanetti.
Charlie Buckingham sailing with Olympian Austin Sperry, and Augie Diaz and Bruno Prada, reigning world champion, coming in there for a top 10 finish. Okay, bow
Arthur Anosov.
88.
Okay, so Diaz and Prada through the line. Augie Diaz, I think, will be relatively happy with that. The wind is forecast to drop off a little bit tomorrow, so we could be seeing some different names at the front, but I think this has played into the hands of Rohart and Ponceau and Mendelblatt and Lil Jal, Meliby Revkin there, Doyle in Feliz. As a few others go through the finish, Hornos and McIntosh and Coleman with Lawrence there, Luke Lawrence in Coleman, Buckingham Moss through, Anosov and Caesar through that line, and here's Svigart, the Hong Kong sailor, with Brian Fatih. And we'll be testing Brian on wind shifts as in the club tonight. How do wind shifts work exactly, Brian? Don't know, but I know what to do when I see one. And Dan Esbro and Bernhofer from Switzerland, top Swiss crew just behind Svigart and Fatih.
And they had some good racing when we were in Switzerland. So we've seen them in the top of the fleet. We know they're supposed to be here. They're not as consistent as some of the boats who've just finished ahead of them, but they do sail at a high level, and I think they're going to be very pleased. Okay, and the Croatian team, that's Misura. They've also been steady up in probably the top 20% of the fleet in most regattas that they sailed in, so they're going to have a long sail in, but be happy with the performance today. Now, just for those of you watching, the sail back to the club where we are here in the studio is quite a ways out. It's probably about a 6-mile sail. I don't know if one of you Europeans want to do that conversion to kilometers, but it is a ways out. And fortunately for them, it is not upwind.
It'll be a quick trip in for these guys. A bit of water, a little rehydration, maybe some food on board, and try and start to prepare for tomorrow. Today was a long day. Tomorrow's going to be a long day as well.
Tomorrow's going to be a bit of a marathon, actually, because they will still run very, very long races.
Absolutely.
They're not going to let up. That's part of the mystery of the Star Class and the Bacardi Cup that Lars Grael described so eloquently, and part of the magic of sailing. And it's interesting, we've had time to analyse what's been going on. We've had time. They're not foiling. It's the old school traditional way of sailing, and it's relevant really to just about most of the people racing out there around our planet. This type of fleet racing, and I think they'll be here in 100 years' time.
For sure. I mean, this is a keelboat. It's two people sailing, but the main is bigger than a J24. So the style of racing is a keelboat, and that's what most sailors around the world can relate to. They just often don't get to do it at this level, racing against legends that you see here up in the top 10, but the same principles apply.
I'm just going to ask Chris, our director, if we're going to get an interview at all. We're trying to queue up a little interview with Xavier and Pierre Alexis, if we can. We've asked them to go around to the back of our TV boat, and we get a quick live chat on air. But we'll see how that works out as the rest of the fleet come through. I would say we have 72 boats enter the Bacardi Cup, and we saw a few having to go back into the harbour with gear breakage on this windy first day. So I suspect there'll be about 68 finishers here coming through the line, and we'll stick with them. And hopefully come up with a quick live chat with Xavier and Pierre Alexis in a moment. Of course, once they cross the line, it's a huge race to get onto the hoist, because they pull the boats out, don't they? Pretty much all of them, they pull them out every night. I don't know why they do that. Why don't you just leave them in the water?
These are fairly Grand Prix boats,
yeah,
and they don't want any growth on the bottom. They need to be gone over like a Formula One car this evening, make sure that there's no problems, and it's difficult to do that when the boat's in the water. It's far easier to do that when the boat is out, and you can inspect the entire boat. So it's really just preventative maintenance and doing their due diligence.
And also we saw the boats at the Grand Slam in Switzerland, the Lake Grand Slam. There, the boats were kept in the water, except they were in a pretty protected lake. Here, there's not really a place for these boats to be kept out in the water overnight. We can see here with the conditions on the bay, it can get pretty choppy, very windy, and you don't want your race car as it is bouncing up and down the waves overnight. Things become loose, things get dislodged, so they do like to pull them out, as you said, fix things. And also, boats occasionally do have tiny leaks in them, and if they're just sitting there, little water can seep in, and any water added to the boat is more weight, and it's just not fast. These boats actually have bailers in them, so even though they're in the chop going upwind and water's coming into the boat, they have bailers in the bottom, and that releases the water out. So a dry boat is a fast boat, and keeping the boats in the water overnight would not be as fast as a boat that's being pulled out.
One of the niceties about coming and sailing in the Star Bacardi Cup, and this is perhaps why we don't have La Franche on board yet. I know in the past there was a tradition that the winner of each race was served a delicious Bacardi and Coke at the end of their race for the sail in. So it may well be that there's a little French celebration going on, and they may not be ready to talk to us yet as they pre-game for tomorrow.
Cool.
So this event, as we mentioned earlier, was started in Cuba back in 1927. The Bacardi family has been a long-time supporter of the world of sailing, particularly the Star class and also the Snipe class. And they were able to carry this event over to the United States after the fall of Cuba, after the Communist Revolution, and there were a few years where they took a break off. But when this event began, it was very popular among Americans because it was during Prohibition, and the Americans weren't allowed to drink, so they could send their boats down to Cuba, and then after racing at the end of the day, they were drinking the Cuba Libre, the rum and Coke, their mojitos, while everyone else in America was dry. So this is an interesting story behind this regatta and what made it so popular. And the Bacardi patronage of the Star class and the sport of sailing remains today, and we're very happy to have them as a part of this SSL production and the regatta.
And they've got a lot of trophies at stake. There's a huge trophy for the winner of the first race of the Bacardi Cup. And last night at the opening ceremony, we had them all lined up. There's veterans trophies, seniors trophies, day 2 trophies, day 1 trophies, and trophies for this, and just a lot of silverware. So just all that 90-year history wrapped up into this fascinating event. Really, really cool. So we're seeing some of the tail enders now crossing the line, and we know that friends and family have been watching to see where their loved ones and their buddies have come, and as we've been chatting away, waiting to speak to Xavier if we can, we're seeing some of the tail enders come through, and right towards the back, Lippincott and Firth coming through there. Is that the young Lippincott?
Yes, it is the young Lippincott, a very young team, not as experienced as some of the other teams. The Lippincott is a very famous name in the world of sailing in America. The Lippincotts were builders of boats for a very long time. They built Snipes.
They built stars.
They built
in fact,
stars.
The Lippincott Star was the star to have in the early days of the Stars, and they are a family that grew up on the Chesapeake Bay, built a lot of boats on the Chesapeake Bay, and yeah, it's nice to see that the family history has continued, and we're on.
Okay, so we are at the wrapping up stage of race number 1 of the Bacardi Cup. Thanks for staying with. I'm just going to very quickly ask our director, Chris, if we're going to get an interview. Otherwise, we'll bail out. Not quite sure. Yes, we might well get Xavier Rohart in just a moment. Cool. All right. Well, I think an amazing performance by that French team. They have laid their marker down. They're going to be ones to watch. I think Xavier and Pierre-Alexis are going to be fairly determined to put their name on that trophy again, and that's a pretty good performance by them on race number 1. Okay, so over to Jenny. Jenny is with Xavier right now, and Pierre-Alexis. Over to you, Jenny.
Ready? Tell me when.
Huge congratulations, you guys. Well done. First race of the Bacardi Cup in the bag. Not only is it in the bag, it was an exceptional match race, and you guys took down the win. Tell us about it.
Yeah, it was after long hours of sailing, so the finish was really stressful. We gave a lot of energy before, and then just at the end they were coming, and we had to find big resources, and the line was really good to cross first.
So in the studio, Pierre Alexi, just so you know, they were saying, all right, tacking duel, game on. And Xavier is going to be happy because he's got a young crew, no offense to Magnus, but he's going to be going, all right, bring it. Did it feel like that on the boat for you?
Not so young, no.
but not so old maybe as some others.
No, yeah. It was a great race because it's very physical to hike hard, and Mark in his crew was a bit better upwind speed. And we try to manage with Xavier hiking more sometimes, past the chop, and to try to have the same speed and to match together.
So is that the strategy then for an endurance race like this that you guys talk about when the moments are that it's really important to hike or to physically work hard, and when the moments are maybe to take a break? I mean, how do you reserve the energy?
We don't reserve so much energy because we start from a bit behind the top guys. So we had to deliver everything on the first turn. And then we were lacking a bit the energy for the last upwind. But we are talking a lot about this during the racing. We are always, okay, now it's the moment. It's the weather moment, the wind is for us, everything is for us, so we have to do it. Or okay, everything is against us, so just keep the mood, keep the thing, keep patience.
Okay, and you've said as well that maybe Mendelblatt that they seemed faster downwind, but you guys definitely had wheels. Sorry, you upwind. Yeah. You guys definitely had wheels downwind. Can you tell us a little bit about why?
We have a very good feeling downwind with the boat. And we try to not to balance the boat so much because this is a risk with the rule 42. And so just to try to keep the boat well in a good balance and have a good rig trim. And we had a good speed, so it was a good, very good downwind leg.
Okay, so finally, speed-wise, clearly you guys don't really have problems. Strategy-wise, what was it, do you think, that was the key to that race?
The key was to find a balance between the left side, which was making more shifts on the left, and a more consistent wind in the middle, maybe a little bit on the right. And also the clouds were affecting a lot the wind bearing. So that was always a discussion between us. What do we choose? We choose the wind angle, the wind power, or the future with the clouds or something. And we made a little mistake on the third upwind. We were really good positioning with Mark, and we tacked first. And that was maybe a mistake that could have cost a little bit.
Well, not too many mistakes. In fact, I could say the least mistakes of the fleet. Congratulations on an excellent first win of the Bacardi Cup, you guys. And back to you in the studio, Digby.
Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Xavier and Pierre Alexis. Congratulations. It looks pretty feisty there, hammering into the dock as they go. So, cool. First day of the Bacardi Cup. We are going to be back tomorrow, and we suspect that the race officer is going to run 2 races tomorrow, so it will start an hour earlier. Keep your eye on starsailors.com and the Bacardi Cup website out there, and the Miami Sailing Week website. But for now, I'm going to say thank you very much from Kathleen. Thank you very much from Jeff. Jeff, can you join us tomorrow? Are you going to be here, or have you got other things to do?
I believe I could join you for a little bit.
Fantastic. Great. Okay, so join us again tomorrow. We're off to a start. That's day 1 of the Bacardi Cup, race 1. Plenty more action, plenty more golf left in the hole. Here are some of the highlights from the day.